everybody, welcome back to the Let's Talk Movies podcast with me, John, and David, aka Shamrock Balls. And today is going to be a part one of a big one for the both of us because this is actually one of my favorite films, and I know it's one of David's too. And that's a little film called Heat. David, what do you think of Heat?
Well, John, before we start, are you ready to do this podcast?
Oh, I'm ready.
Okay, well, give me all you got. Give me all you got.
Yeah, man, I was wondering which you had to use a Pacino line, and it's funny because this is July still, and it's bank robbery July for us, and
That's right.
and Al Pacino happens to be in both movies, but this character is very different from Sonny.
Yeah, it definitely is, and that's right. It is. I forgot to mention that myself. I even forgot to mention at the start of Dog Day that this is bank robbery July, which just so happens to star Al Pacino in both movies. And I didn't want to hit this wee table too hard because I didn't want to damage my laptop here. Do you know what I mean? I love how he kind of hits the table. He's like, give me all you got.
Shaking the table like in a way.
He's shaking the table. Yeah, and you're right. That is a great thing about Al Pacino is that we all know he's such a great actor, but it's such a different character in this movie than what he was playing in Dog Day Afternoon. So look, my feeling on the movie, to be honest with you, John, is this has been a slow burn for me, this movie, over the years, because I think I remember seeing it myself. First time must have been like a Sky Movies, like back in the 90s, maybe mid to late 90s. And I'm enjoying the film, but it's basically been a slow burn because it's one of them ones that it's grown on me over the years. So it has. I just took a few wee notes here about it because it's just one of those things that it doesn't matter if you're a good guy or a bad guy, because it's just showing you that life isn't easy, and it's about the relationships between all these characters and their conflicts in their personal lives and the parallels between them, whether you're good or bad.
Yeah, it's actually the perfect way to look at this kind of movie because really, if you boil it down to the bare bones of what this movie is, it's just a cop versus a robber. That's it. Like, who's going to catch the other one first, essentially. And that's why you kind of get these two heavyweights of cinema and Robert De Niro and Al Pacino to play these two characters. But there's a fine line between them that they might be on separate lines of the law, separate sides of the law, but they are very similar characters who have very similar personal lives where they are so committed to their jobs, whether it's a robber or a cop, that everything else kind of falls to the wayside.
Yeah. The thing is, it's so cliche to say it, John, but they are the two sides of the same coin.
Mm-hmm. It is cliche, but that's what I mean when you boil it down to what it is.
Yeah, it's me. I mean, for me, just to say it's two sides of the same coin. That's what I'm saying. It's cliche to say it, but it's so true about these two characters. And it was the thing that I was taking my notes earlier and watching the making of and things like that. And for example, Michael Mann, the director and the writer, he basically says that it's to do decisions. I broke this down, but what he was saying was decisions equal consequence equal your fate. And it's almost like that. He said what Michael Mann actually said was it's cause and effect. And it's about the decisions they make in their lives, which ends up with the consequences that they have. And that applies to everybody in life. Every decision that you make, whether it's little or big, will be a consequence of where you end up in life. And the thing is about these two characters is that they're very similar in a case of that Robert De Niro's character, Neil McCauley, he picked for whatever reason, he picked a life of crime. And Vincent Hanna, for whatever his reasoning being, he picked the side of the law, as you said. And they could very easily have flipped either side.
Yeah, both of them easily could go work on the other one and do the other one's job. It's just kind of like what they do. And honestly, it's not even just the two of them. It almost kind of starts to trickle down to other characters. Like you could go on Robert De Niro's side, like Tom Sizemore's character, how he says the action for him is the juice, or Chris, played by Val Kilmer, like for him, like the way he makes choices in his life, like there's consequences for all that, but they all have different reasoning for doing what they do. But a lot of them don't live the stereotypical life. And I think that's what they're trying to show you in this movie as well, is each person is doing the job for different reasons, and no matter what the job is. Like we see a lot of the other cops too, like in this movie. Like it's a very ensemble cast, but still at the very end of it is these two guys who, like you just said, can flip and go whichever way because they're so similar at the end of the day.
Yeah, and what I like about what Michael Mann has done here with this movie is that Ripley, leave that alone. She's attacking my tatty dinosaur over there,
Oh, this.
which my daughter gave me. So that's why there's a tatty dinosaur in here. Yep, very mischievous. She didn't get her walk. She didn't get her walk a day. She's misbehaving. Sit down. Thank you. Sit down. Yeah. So what I actually like about what Michael Mann has done in this movie is that he's created three-dimensional characters, well-rounded characterizations of normal everyday people who are going through normal everyday issues. Again, whether on the good side or the bad side, we all have those similar human situations at home that some of us have to deal with. And I think that's what he's showing. He's showing that whether or not you're on the side of the law or whether or not you're a bad guy, we all have to deal with these very human situations. And as I said earlier, he's showing the parallel of that between all the different characters, whether, as you say, it's Chris or it's Neil or it's Vincent. I'm trying to think about it. I don't know if they really go too in depth in any of the other cops' personal lives, but yeah, but it's showing you.
Yeah, we kind of have the cops there, but yeah, I guess we don't ever really go into their personal lives. Although you do kind of still feel sad when like some of them, like when Ted Levine's character dies, because we kind of have a little bit of a relationship with him. I'm forgetting the guy who's also in Forrest Gump and Free Willy, that cop, his relationship.
Yeah.
Like he's a nice guy. We kind of do care about him. We kind of see the sides of all the cops. So yeah, Al Pacino's at the lead of them, but we're trying to see the whole cruise throughout the movie. Like we see, like we'll have scenes like when we get into the film, like scenes of where they're scoping out the criminals, but then the cops are being scoped out by the criminals as well. So we get to see both sides of the law and of the crime. So it's all kind of building up to the big heist. And it's funny because earlier today when I was doing the live show, you brought up how this movie is essentially kind of remade with The Dark Knight, and there's a lot of similarities, not just in the fact that there's a bank heist in there, but in the characters of Batman and the Joker, how they're at the head of this film, and how they could easily like be on the opposite sides as well. Like they're very similar, even though one's a criminal and one's a cop, essentially, even though obviously he's Batman.
Yeah, well, Chris Nolan has openly said that he is a fan and has been inspired by Heat in many of his movies. He actually done a Q&A with Al Pacino and Michael Mann.
Really?
Oh yeah, he did. He done a Q&A on stage. I'm not sure. I didn't get to watch all the special features this time around. It may be on my Blu-ray. I can't remember, but you can definitely find it. Yeah, he's a big fan of Heat, and he openly says that he's been inspired by it. And not only that, he has openly said that the opening scene in The Dark Knight is inspired by Heat.
That
not
I
only,
know.
Yeah, and not only he may, I may be wrong here, but he may have said that the rest of the movie was, but you can easily see that influence throughout The Dark Knight. Now, I did make an off the cuff comment today saying that Dark Knight's a Heat ripoff. It's not exactly. A lot of The Dark Knight is inspired by some of the comics, but I just feel as if the look of The Dark Knight and the feel of The Dark Knight is just taken straight from Heat. And not only that, you have that very famous scene in The Dark Knight of Batman sitting down across the table with the Joker and having a conversation with him, just like you get in this movie with Neil and Vincent. But again, I've read some Batman comics. I know that there's a scene at the start of The Killing Joke where Batman sits down to talk to the Joker across the table. So they are interconnected that way as well. And yes, the Joker as well, again, is like Batman and Joker are two sides of the same coin, right? One's about chaos and one is about order. If you look at Vincent Hanna and you look at Neil McCauley and De Niro and well, the filmmakers and Pacino have said this themselves. Pacino says he felt as if he had to play his character very hyper, as a juxtaposition to Neil McCauley, who is very kind of what does they say here, rigid in his thinking, and also they said he's by the book. Now, to me, by the book means you do things properly, but his book is about criminality, so he wants to do things properly in the terms of the world of crime, not as in like, oh yeah, you be a good person and you obey by the law. So he's got his rules and his guidelines that he sticks by, and he sticks by them, as they say, rigidly, does not deviate from them lines. And that's how he is very successful and very clinical, and as they say in the movie, sharp, right? Whereas anything, as Michael Mann says, anything that Neil does is not spontaneous, and when he does start acting spontaneously, that's what brings the heat on, and ultimately, that's what becomes of his downfall. That's how he ends up being killed in the end. Whereas like if you look at the likes of Vincent Hanna, right? He is they said he's hyper, he's spontaneous, he's the spontaneous one. He's the one kind of staying within the lanes of the law, but he's like breaking down doors. He's pretty much walking a lane here, not like a Dirty Harry lane, but more of a lane of informants, letting them maybe get away with a certain things. You give me information, I'm not gonna let you away with too much, but I'll let you away with something. Even taking that fella Marciano, you go work for us, or you go to New Jersey, and you're going to be up in charges there for smuggling. Okay, so he's kind of got that Dirty Harry kind of using whatever tactics he can, just slightly staying within the law, just to catch the guys that he's going after. I thought it was interesting as well, John, that Al Pacino said himself that in the background, he actually thought to himself that Vincent was doing cocaine.
Yeah, and it kind of comes across that way.
Yeah, but that's where he says he would get his energy from. That's where he would get his hyperactivity from. That was the reasoning behind it. He was doing cocaine.
It makes a lot of sense but that does, you do need that, and I think it's a good way to play the character. Obviously, he gets like these big overacting moments, but they are a choice for the character. Because they did say that, like Robert De Niro, he brings up in the movie, he's like, that's the discipline. Like Neil McCauley says, that's the discipline. He's a very disciplined person. He can, do what he has to do. Look at his apartment. He's got no furniture or anything. He's just committed to his job, making sure he's got all the I's dotted, all the T's crossed. But once he starts to get like a whiff of like that, a relationship, which he doesn't think a relationship should even be had, because like it'll distract you from like being focused. Everything's about being focused. It's where Vincent Hanna, I mean, he's like, everything's about just kind of catching that one guy, and he'll do whatever he needs to do it. Like whether it is like just doing cocaine, kind of like floating the edge of like what the law is allowed. Like, you can't do some of this stuff, but he doesn't really care. But he's also going to let other little things slide. Like when they're like investigating, he's like, what? We can't take them now. Like, even though we got them breaking laws, he's like, but that's nothing. Like, we got to get him on the big one. That's what's more important.
Yeah, he knows it's not worth their while picking them up for, as he says, to go away for 6 months or whatever, to get out and start doing it again. As you said, he wants the big score, and just like they want the big score. And you're right, that's the whole thing. Is like it's showing you, maybe that's why they show more of Chris than they do Michael in this movie, because they're kind of showing Neil without a family, right? And as we were saying there, how disciplined he is doing the job, how focused he is about the job, and how successful he is about the job, against Chris, who has these problems, gambling addiction, a wife who's cheating on him, which he doesn't know about, but there's problems in his marriage. She's basically egging him on, saying, why are you doing these robberies for if you're not getting enough money? And I suppose they're showing that difference there between them two, because they showed their relationship and him asking about his marriage and telling him, that we were told not to get involved in anything that if you didn't have 30 seconds to walk away from. Then, of course, but then they show the likes of Neil's personal life, Vincent's personal life, whereas Neil doesn't have really a personal life. Vincent has a personal life, but it doesn't really exist. It's dead because he's too busy pursuing his job, whether that be robbery or a serial killer that's on the loose and finding these dead bodies of these young girls. So he's a lot on his plate that he basically doesn't have a personal life at all. He doesn't have a connection. He doesn't have a connection with his wife, other than a physical one. There's no emotional one there. He doesn't have a connection with his stepdaughter, although you know that he cares about her, because he's annoyed that her father is not having anything to do with her. But he's not really having anything to do with her either. Even though he's there in body, he's not there in spirit.
No, he's not. He's mentally checked out. He's always, I mean, we'll get all into this. I don't want to like waste it all here about like his mentality on life, but his mentality is essentially he's not. What's the best way to put this? He keeps trying. He keeps chasing what he believes a life should be, but there's no way he's equipped for that. Whereas Neil McCauley already knows that that's not a life for him. That's not the life he set out for himself. Whereas I feel like Al Pacino like is coming to the realization that he'll never have this life, even though he keeps trying.
Yeah, I feel as if Vincent Hanna is he's like an adrenaline junkie. Mm-hmm. He's seeking the thrill.
Yeah,
He's always looking for the thrill. And I think that Neil has that too, but Neil's thrill is obviously robbing, whereas Vincent's is actually catching the robber. Um, so yeah, I think that it could be a case of that's where they're very similar,
yeah.
but yeah.
But again, they fall just on different sides. And
Mhm.
yeah, I guess before we get into the actual film, there's a couple other things I just want to like go over, like on the because like this is based on Michael Mann's own version of a short, not a short film, of a TV movie that he made called L.A. Takedown,
Yes.
which is based on these two real characters in a way. And then it was supposed to like possibly get picked up for like to be a TV series, but it never did. But a lot
Mhm.
of that's also interesting. This isn't, he also made the movie Thief and
Mhm.
Manhunter before all this. So Mike, this is the first Michael Mann movie we've ever done, but he's a very interesting stylized director.
Yeah.
And for me, this is his best film.
Yeah. I would say so. I mean, I really like Manhunter.
I love
Um,
Manhunter.
I mean, this is another hot take for me. I mentioned a hot take today on your live, but I'll save that for another time. But since we're talking about Michael Mann, I think Manhunter's the best of the Hannibal Lecter films. It
It's
would
a
be my
bold take to say something like that. I
yeah.
can't. I think it's the second best. I think that I still think Silence of the
But
Lambs is a better film, but I love them both.
after Red Dragon,
I don't like Red Dragon. I don't like. I don't like Red Dragon is mine. It is Manhunter.
I know,
It's the same book. It's just done way better in
yeah.
Manhunter. It's got you took all the style out of it for Red Dragon. I hate Red Dragon.
Yeah, I've read
And
the book. I've read Red Dragon and I've read Silence of the Lambs, and I will one day read Hannibal. But though I totally agree with you, I feel as if I don't want to make us into a Silence of the Lambs debate by the way or talk because we could spend a whole podcast on that. But we're talking about Michael Mann. I really like Silence of the Lambs. I just feel that Manhunt. I don't know. Maybe it's just the style, like you say, the style of Manhunter. I really like, and I also just like the story with the Tooth Fairy. I like his journey that he goes on with the blind woman. I really like that, and I also feel as if that when they couldn't get Jodie Foster for Hannibal, they should have just recast Hannibal Lecter, but that was never going to happen. So you would have three movies based on the three books with all three different actors throughout the movies, but that was never going to happen. And once they done Hannibal, of course they had to go back and remake Manhunter.
yeah, I hate it. It's something that just really does bother me. For me, I only rewatch Manhunter and Silence of the Lambs. For me, that's it. I haven't watched the Hannibal TV show. I've heard good things.
No, I started watching it and just went, I don't like this. This isn't for me. Stopped
Oh,
watching it after a couple of episodes. As I said, I've read the first two books and I really enjoyed them. And I would love to read Hannibal. I'll get round it at some stage. Now, there's another one called Hannibal Rising, which people have said is the worst of the four books. I think it's like a prequel to Hannibal. I think it's more about Hannibal and his upbringing because you got to remember too, as well, John. Those movies aren't really about Hannibal Lecter. Well, the first two, anyway, they're not about Hannibal Lecter. The
no,
first one's about the Tooth Fairy, and the second one's about Buffalo Bill. He's just there to kind of help out whoever it is that's trying to hunt down the serial killer, whether it's Will Graham or Clarice Starling. That's Will Graham's story, and it's Clarice Starling's story. It's not Hannibal Lecter, and that's why, like, as good as Anthony Hopkins is in Silence of the Lambs, he's better than Brian Cox, but that doesn't matter to me because the movies aren't about that.
yeah, they're both fantastic films. Like we're talking like The Silence of the Lambs. The reason why I like that too is because it's a very stylized film as well. There's a lot of great filmmaking technique in there,
Yes.
great performances. Manhunter has a lot of that as well. That's the thing, as that's why I like Manhunter just as much as you. And a lot of that also is stuff that Michael Mann brings to the table that he
Yes.
potentially does bring in heat also is the way his scores are. Like they're kind of very they're very stylized as well. Like, a lot of like, big punches and stings in there. Like I think all that works very much for Manhunter. This one, and they feel also always of their time. Like that feels like an 80s movie. This feels very much like 1995.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And just the last thing to touch on Saints Alarms. Listen, many will agree with you. Like I said today, my hot take about Casino and Goodfellas. Majority of people will say that Silence Alarms is a superior movie. It's one of the best horrors ever made, even though it's like the Jaws debate. I don't consider it a horror. And it of course is a very well made movie. But yeah, I think that I can't even think of any other Michael Mann movies I've seen. I remember seeing Miami Vice in the cinema, and it was so boring.
I love
I
Miami
could
Vice.
do you? I couldn't wait for it to be over. Now I seen it when it came out. That was many years ago, so I don't know if my opinion would change now if I went back and watched it. But yeah, what I like about the score in this movie, John, is that there's certain movies we touched on it over our recent podcasts about like Jaws and the big score and Spielberg and Lucas bringing it back. You know, with he brought it back with Jaws, and then of course you had like Rocky had a great score the year after that, and then the following year you had Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
So the big score came back for the late 70s, early 80s, and I really love what Jerry Goldsmith done with Alien, which again is more of a adds more to the atmosphere of Alien than actually a big score. And I feel as if there's certain movies that benefit from that kind of atmospheric type of score rather than a big one. And this is one of these movies that actually benefits from more of an atmospheric score. I like some of the songs when they come into it, the Moby songs. But it's really funny. It's Elliot Goldenthal. Like, how do you pronounce his second name?
I was trying to pronounce it too. It looks like Goldenthal.
Goldenthal. And this was the same year he done Batman Forever.
Which Val Kilmer crosses over in both of them.
Yes, he does. And of course, you have the likes of, like, as I say, you have that big superhero score that he done for Batman Forever, which came out in the summer. This came out in December of 95, but this is more it's great that he was able to go in and do more of a kind of subtle kind of score for this type of movie and incorporate those musical tracks throughout it as well.
Yeah, I think this is obviously the better one. He also did Batman and Robin. Let's not forget that. So he did.
I don't. I mean, I don't know how many times I've seen Batman and Robin, 3 or 4 times, maybe in my whole life. That score to me sounded like he was just playing the Forever score again, though. It sounded very similar.
I mean, I think everyone phoned it in for Batman and Robin. Let's not hold anyone accountable for that.
I don't know. It's what I try and forget.
Yeah, I saw that in theaters. Oh my god. But I think that's all like really on like the pre-production of this film. You ready to dive in? Because there's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot to get through here. Just want to say that the budget was $60 million and it grossed $187.4 million at the box office. So
not
a big
bad
hit.
At all. Man, a pretty big hit. Won some awards, I'm sure, for hopefully for like editing. Actually, it didn't win for score. I know that.
It didn't.
No, it didn't win for score. I don't think it won for anything.
I didn't even check. I didn't even check the Oscars or anything like that. For
I don't think it won that. I just know Braveheart won the '95 Academy Award for Best Picture.
I'd made it one best score as well. Then
probably would. That's one of my favorite scores. I love that score.
Oh, it's a great score. It's James Horner. That's why he came back for Titanic. Yeah. That's what got him the Titanic job.
And I love the Titanic score too. So very similar scores. Score.
Well, but that's what got him it. I know it's a bit off topic. Him and Cameron worked on Aliens together and they fell out and didn't speak. And until James Horner seen he was making Titanic and contacted him and says, "Here, I would mind having a go at that." Have you heard my Braveheart score? And he went, "I do. It's brilliant." And they
I'm glad they came together again.
They made up after that. He asked Jim to draw him like one of his French girls, and they made up after that. And he done Titanic and won an Oscar. So he made a one for Braveheart as well.
It would make sense. I think that makes sense. I'll have to double check it.
Yeah. Just one thing before we start as well. We touch on it there, and of course we could touch on it when we're going through the movie. But I made a few notes here just about the cinematography as well, just about this movie as well, talking about the mood and the atmosphere of the film with the music. I mean, I love a lot of those like high wide shots. You know, what I mean, those high shots and the wide shots, John, and the lights of the city and the way he uses the cool blues in this movie as well. I think that's very good.
Beautiful looking film. I mean, there's a lot of stuff where he keeps like the background like completely out of focus, but can have 2 people in focus in the foreground. It's a beautifully shot film. I love it. It's almost a sin that the 4K Blu-ray for this is atrocious. I won't even watch it.
Well, you see, I heard that about the 4K at the time. I heard reviews. I don't know. I may have even watched yours, and that's why I haven't upgraded yet. But when I put the Blu-ray in, I don't know if it's supposed to be intense. I put the Blu-ray in to watch it last week, and like at the start, the subtitles are blurred. I mean, that's a bit odd. The writing is blurred because up here it looks blurred. So even the Blu-ray is not great.
No, the Blu-ray is not. I have the Blu-ray on now. The Blu-ray has a little bit of hard time sometimes hitting deep black. So like, that gets fixed on the 4K, but then they put a blue filter over the 4K and it looks just really dark and ugly.
Yeah, I'm going to have to hold out for a decent one there, mate, like Terminator 2. And I think I'd heard as well, like we were talking about special features there, that the 4K didn't get a lot of those special features transferred over either. Like the Blu-ray has like a double disc.
Yeah, the Blu-ray has everything in there. They didn't put it all in the 4K. It's a shame. I don't know what that's what happens, unfortunately, when major studios put out 4Ks compared to like if Arrow did it. Like they'd be correct if Arrow did it because they care.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
just a shame.
Right. Okay. Well, we'll get into the movie then.
Let's get right into the film now, I think.
Let's get into it then. Yeah. So as we just mentioned there about Elliot Goldenthal, we hear the subtle music kind of starting at the start of the movie. I love that. It's just it's great. And we see the train and the titles, and De Niro steps off a train and he's dressed as a paramedic.
Yep.
And he walks through a hospital and he takes an ambulance.
You ever seen Collateral, the other Michael Mann movie?
Do you know, you'd say there about you think this is his best movie? That's what got me thinking, how many have I seen? I haven't seen Collateral. I think I've only seen Miami Vice and Manhunter. I'm not sure I've seen any of his other films.
Last of the Mohegans?
No, I haven't seen Last of the Mohegans.
One thing that's interesting with this movie is that because both movies take place in LA and they, very interesting LA films shooting locations, but that train is the same train that they end Collateral on. So like it's weird that Robert De Niro's getting off that train at the beginning of Heat, and then at the end of Collateral they're on that train.
Right. Okay.
So just a little tie in there because Michael Mann knows how to shoot LA, that's for sure.
Yeah, he really does. Yeah. So we just talking about that train, by the way. I just love how it's slowly coming up at the start, John, and you see like the steam and stuff like that. It's a beautiful shot. So it is of that coming up. It's
it's gorgeous. And also Regency film logo always very much makes me think of the 90s because this Free Willy and Ace Ventura.
Yeah, Ace Ventura, yeah.
Not many people are going to compare Ace Ventura to Heat, but you know what? Same studio.
Yeah, could you imagine like Jim Carrey saying, "Give me all you got"?
He's doing the investigating. We got to bring in a real guy. We got to Tom Ace.
Tom Ace, yeah. Right heaven to try and catch him. I think Neil McCauley would get away.
Oh yeah, he'd get away real quick. He wouldn't have any trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. So we cut to Val Kilmer, and he's getting into like a hardware store, and he goes up and he is buying explosive charges. So he is, and he tells the guy that's selling them to charge it to Jack's Demolition in Tucson. Now you recognize who the man is who was working in the hardware. I know it's not a store, but it's like a big warehouse.
It's like a lumber yard almost.
But you see guys all in the background all buying other construction stuff and things like that. Yeah, but you didn't recognize who that is, though.
No, who was it?
It's the lawyer from Jurassic Park.
Is that the lawyer from Jurassic Park? The same guy from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was him. No.
Yeah. I can't remember his name at the minute, but that's who it is. Yeah. You see,
he plays Clerks all the time.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, yeah. Then we cut the Al Pacino. He's in bed with his wife, Justine, and that's a girl called Diane
Venora. Yeah.
Venora? Yeah. Who was it said about? Somebody mentioned a comment about
her hair.
It might have been the rewatchables.
My God, her hair is so of that time between this and I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Santa Claus, the mom and that too. Like they just had these sort of haircuts with the bangs that are just so much of the time. They stand out in a negative way, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it was the rewatchables. Was it the Basic Instinct one I was listening to again? And they talked about maybe Al Pacino playing the lead role in Basic Instinct instead of Michael Douglas. It might have been that episode, and they said about, oh God, no, I just something about one of them mentioned about it's just something about Al Pacino having sex that
no,
it just can't do it, and I think that's probably a reference back to when they done Heat.
Yeah, there's something about it. It doesn't look right with him. It's just, I don't know. He's just, I'm picturing like a smoke-filled room, loose skin, a lot of tan oil. I don't know. Not
you know, imagine like when he climaxes, he'd be like, "Hooah!
Was that good for you?
Good for you. It's good for me."
There's a reason why he's divorced 3 times, Vincent Howard, or heading for the 3rd.
He's heading for the 3rd. Yep, definitely. And well, he has a shower, and when it's over, Justine asks him, "Are you taking me to breakfast?" And he says, "I can't. I have a meeting with Bosco." And so it's going to be some bad Al Pacino presence on this.
Absolutely.
And, it has to be. And yeah, so He's just showing he's basically got no time for a home life, because she talks about, making coffee, and then Natalie Portman comes in and says that her dad's taking her to see the new building, whatever that is, in the end of lunch. And Justine says he's already half an hour late. And Vince, and this is what I like about his character here, because even though the guy is very busy with his work life, and he does no time for home life, he still has a concern for his stepdaughter. Maybe you should have more concern. We'll find out as the movie goes on. I have some thoughts on that. But
well, you see in the mother's not really too great too. Like they got the pills.
no,
I see her popping pills. Like she's not all well off either. She might be a little bit better than him because maybe she's present, but is she mentally present?
yeah, no, I totally agree with it. And the thing is that the thing about the reason I'm making that point is because I do think that Vincent genuinely cares about the stepdaughter, but he's just caught up in his work. You know, that he's not
distracted,
giving her the proper attention, because he does make a comment when she leaves about, he says, is he going to show, or is the son of a bitch going to stand her up like the last time? But then she says about the coffee again, and he says, I've no time for coffee, and he leaves. But then, as you say, we then see Natalie Portman in conflict with her mum, because she, I like how this is actually played. It's very subtle as well, because there's an awful lot in this, John, about the characterizations of every single one of these characters. As I said earlier, they're very rounded, they're very three-dimensional, and even the daughter, the anxiety she has about her father, even though the father's the scumbag, even though the father is the one that's standing her up and not showing up and not there for his, not present for his daughter, even if he's not with the mother anymore. It just shows you the amount of anxiety that Natalie Portman actually has, because she's worried that she's not going to be ready for him showing, even though he's late already.
Yeah, she's worried because she feels like that if she's not in like the best version of herself for him, that he won't come around. But that's what she's trying to essentially do, is prove herself to him, like that she's like the perfect daughter. And she feels like it's her fault that he doesn't show up, when really it's because he's just a scumbag, and everyone knows it. But you know, she's a child; she doesn't know.
That's true. She doesn't know any better. So we'll cut then to Wayne Grow. Now I had the subtitles on. I thought his name was Wayne Grow, but his name is actually Wayne Grow.
Wayne Grow, right?
Yeah, I don't know why. For years I thought his name was Wayne.
Oh yeah, no, that's his last name, or just a sub name. I guess he just goes by Wayne Grow. That's funny how they keep bringing him up as Wayne Grow. And this is like the first cancer in De Niro's plans.
Yeah, which I always find is rather odd for a guy that is so meticulous and so kind of sharp. Where did he get this guy from?
I think it's from I have no idea where he found him. He must have found him through his channels, like through John Voight or something, as like a recommendation. Like, because I can't imagine he's the only one that's like not on the usual crew, so they needed one more guy, and I guess they like recommended him.
Yeah, there's a couple of look. I don't think this film is known for, its great plot as such. Do you know what I mean? I think that everybody could recognize it's known for the characterizations more than anything, the story to do with the personal lives, which is fine. But there's a couple of instances in this movie where I do question the decisions.
I've always questioned this.
Yes, and this is the first one. But we all know this is one of the things that gets, as you say, the plot rolling for the downfall of this crew. It's only one. But we'll get to the other one very soon. But yeah, so he's ordering more coffee when he sees this pickup truck pulling up, and he runs over to it, and before he gets in, the guy driving, Tom Sizemore, says, right. I know, he's great in this. He's great in Saving Private Ryan as well. And he says, what's your name? And he says, Wayne Grow. And he lets him in, and he says, we must be Michael, huh? And they shake hands, but Michael's very cold to him, doesn't really answer him, and he's all chat, and he's all, you guys work together, you tape crew, and that's when he says to him, stop talking slick, and you see him like stare at him. That's when you first, then Michael doesn't see it, but we see it as the audience. You see his demeanor just drop, and he gives him like these kind of like, devil eyes at him. And because he stops, he then wants to pull up, he's turned away, but you see Michael kind of looking at him before it cuts, kind of as if,
like, what the fuck's with this guy? Yeah, like, come on, we're supposed to be focused. This guy's trying to chat, and he's getting offended when I tell him to stop talking. It's like, we're doing a job here.
Yeah, doing a job. And as you said earlier, Michael's looking at this as a job. He doesn't want to get to know him. He just wants to do a job and get home again. That's it. It's not his friend. He's, so But that's the first instance you see that there's not something not right with this guy. And then, of course, we cut to Donnie Trejo, De Niro, radioing, and then we see Val Kilmer, and then they all put the masks on, and that's when they carry out the heist.
Which is a great heist, timed perfectly. Makes a lot of sense what they're going for. Like, throw off this bank truck. They have it all timed out to the T. They know they're going to call it in, and it all is going according to plan. They know what they're there for. They're there for this one set of bearer bonds. They don't grab the cash. They have it down. It's 3 minutes, I believe. And of course, everything's going great. We have all these guys lined up outside the truck. Everything looks like it's going to go according to plan. But then, of course, Wayne Grove, being the piece of shit that he is, everyone sees, like, everyone else understands. It's like, this guy should be kind of a professional, but the fact that Michael has to go over and, like, be like, hey, you see that stuff coming out of their ears? That's blood. They can't hear you. Like, and to the point, for some reason, Wayne Grove's, like, looking at this guy's eyes popping out of his head. And he's like, I guess getting a little paranoid, or do you think he had a preconceived notion to kill this guy already? Because, there's a little bit of a subplot we'll get into a little more.
Yeah, you see, as you said, before I get that, just point out as well, they pull the security guards out, they put the stingers down. So as you say, these guys are pros. They know what they're doing. They're on a tight. They've a time limit. They know they've only got so many minutes to kind of get in and get back out again and escape. So they've done this many times, and this is exactly why, John, that as much as I love this movie, is that even though I question this, I'm just like, why would they let this guy who vetted him? How does he know what to do? You think they would have met before this? They would have vetted him and made sure he was kosher. He could be a cop. Do you know what I mean? And go through the plan so he knows what he's doing.
Or at least have a scene in here. And this movie's long. I have the scene in here where after all this goes down, where Robert De Niro's blowing up on the person that recommended him, because De Niro trusts his people. Like, after that's all over, he doesn't really have an issue with Jon Voight, which makes you think maybe he didn't get him from Jon Voight. I agree. Like, you don't meet with this guy. Like, you trust everybody. Like, we see that everybody else but this guy has worked with him before, to the point where they're a very tight crew. Even Wayne Grove brings it up.
Well, of questions about Jon Voight as well, and we'll get into him later. But the thing is that now, whether or not, it's De Niro set this up. He's like the leader of the crew, right? So whether or not he's met Wayne Grove and went through it with him, and it's just that Michael and the likes of Chris hasn't met him, or Trejo hasn't met him. I don't know what Trejo's first name is in this. I know it's weird. That's his name in real life.
Yeah, what is
Donnie Trejo, but he is called Trejo in the movie, but he's a different first name.
That's it. I mean, Trejo's a cool ass name. Why change it if you don't have to?
Yeah, but I'm not sure what his first name is, but just call him Trejo for this anyway. Works on both levels. And so in relation to shooting the guard, I think that, well, as we find it pretty quickly, this guy's a psychopath. Well, we don't know he's a serial killer, but he's a psychopath. He obviously enjoys killing people. That wasn't part of the crew's plan, was to murder these security guards, because as the name of the film, it brings too much heat, right?
Yeah,
murder.
They had a plan to get out of there with that. They cover their faces for a reason. They know that nobody else in traffic's really going to see them. It's really, the masks are on for these guards because they're going to let them live. That's the whole plan. They don't want a murder, and they even want, we'll get into in a second when Pacino gets there. It's like, once it became kidnapping and murder one, they all just didn't hesitate because they know that, but they don't want it to escalate to that point.
No, because that's a lot more serious than just robbing.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere they didn't take the money, they take the bonds, the bearer bonds, and even though
they're really ripping off one guy is essentially what they were there to do.
Yeah, they weren't there to murder people, and I think that again, these guys here, the robbers they have killed, they will kill. You will see that. They will not hesitate to do it. De Niro tells you that he will not hesitate to do it if somebody gets in his way. However, when they rob the bank, I don't want to get too far ahead here, but when they rob the bank, they get up and tell the people, we don't want to hurt you. We want the money. Your money's insured. Don't worry, nothing's going to happen to you. Now, if somebody tries to act a wise guy or get in their way, they're going to take them out. These guys, they were standing there. They were docile enough. They couldn't hear. They weren't doing anything. So I think Wayne Grove, we find out he's a psychopath. I think he was a bit pissed with the way Michael treated him in the truck.
You think?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't trust this guy at all, and I do think he has no problem lying. I always have a little bit of a thing, like, towards the next scene where he's like, I had to get it on, man. Like, I had to, like, where he's, like, almost trying to defend himself. Like, but you believe he's lying there. Like, he's just trying to say anything because it doesn't seem like he has any idea that they're going to try and kill him. Like, he just still feel a little off to me.
Yeah, well, I'll get to that scene, but at this scene here, You're asking me why? I don't know. Maybe it's his style that you kill and steal.
Yeah, maybe. Like maybe he never felt comfortable with the idea. Actually, I did think that he never felt comfortable with the idea of letting them live anyway.
Yeah,
He's used to killing people. No one really ever gets to see his face, which kind of comes into the subplot later in the movie. So
yeah,
maybe that's why, even though he's wearing a mask, maybe this is just what he's used to. We're done. I kill. Like, you
yeah,
guys do it your way, but I'm not a part of your crew.
yeah. Whereas the guys, the professionals, don't do that. Right? The
Hmm.
professionals, like, we're here for the gear. We're not here to murder, but we
No.
will do it if they get on our way. And of course, when he kills the first cop security guard, then they have the other one goes for his gun, and they shoot the other guy, and then the other security guards just stand there, and they have to take him out then because they've
Hmm.
killed the other two. Because then he'll be a witness to what actually happened.
Yeah, he tell him the
Um,
whole story, and he's like, we can't have that. Leave it all up to mystery.
yeah. Who shoots that third one? Is that Michael shoots him? I'm
Is
trying
it
to work out
Michael?
because he's the only one wearing a blue boiler suit. The rest are wearing like a gray.
I always try and see who shoots who, but yeah, I think it was Michael. Michael feels like the coldest of them as far as like the main crew.
Yeah, but De Niro gives him the nod. He doesn't do it until he gives him
De
the
Niro's the boss. He's the
yeah,
boss.
because he says later on, I rode with you. So yeah. So as I say, they're escaping in the ambulance, and you hear Wayne Gross saying, well, De Niro says to him, "Why the hell did you do that?" And he says, "Guy was making a move." And the police cars come in, go on the Steiners, and they torch the ambulance and make a getaway in the car.
Yeah, clean escape. I love it. Everything was perfect if that didn't happen. They had the car that they escape in waiting there, the ambulance, they burn everything. So any kind of evidence in there. It's not a huge explosion, just enough to blow it up on the inside that it would take them a little while to find it.
Yeah, just to get rid of forensics. So this and yeah, but like you say, if he hadn't have killed that guard, then they wouldn't have had to kill the other ones, and then it would have just been a robbery, and they would have been just dealing with Roger Van Zant.
Mm-hmm.
Your man probably would have got his money, Wayne Grow, and then they probably, you know what I mean, maybe brought him in on another job, but they weren't to know that this guy's a total nutcase. So next scene, we've got Neil meeting with Nate, which is John Voight. I love John Voight.
I know John Voight is a great actor. Angelina Jolie's dad.
That's right, and I love him in a movie called I don't think I've seen him in many movies, to be honest, but I love him in a movie called, oh, what's it called again?
Never saw Midnight Cowboy?
I haven't seen Midnight Cowboy.
Oh, he's great in that.
Yeah. Here, Runaway Train. Have you ever seen one called Runaway Train?
I haven't seen Runaway Train.
Yeah, I recommend it. It's him and Eric Roberts, and
Oh.
they're in prison. They're two criminals, and they escape, and they steal a train, and the driver dies, and they can't get off it. And the whole movie's just them on this train. Now, the guy that he is playing in this movie, Nate, is based on a real life criminal called Eddie Bunker.
Oh, okay. I've heard of Eddie Bunker from other things.
Now, Eddie Bunker's in Reservoir Dogs. He's the
Yes.
guy. He's Mr. Blue.
Yes, because Quentin Tarantino's brown, so the two of them are the ones that get killed.
Blue. He's the one that says, "What's special? Taking you out
Mhm.
the back to suck your dick." So he's the moustache. He's the long
Yeah.
hair, slick back, and that's exactly what he looks like. Now, I think Eddie Bunker wrote Runaway Train. He was a criminal. He was an organized crime, and then he came out of prison and he wrote books and and things like that. So I don't know too much about him. That's all I really know about him. And then obviously he was cast in Reservoir Dogs, and I think that's who John Voight's character is based after. Or
Looks like it with the
based
hair
on.
and mustache.
He looks like him exactly. And they're in the car park, and he explains they ripped off Roger Van Zant, and he's part of Malibu Equity and Investments. And he actually says to Neil about sell his bonds back to him because he'll make 100% back on the insurance, and then we can make 60%, and he can make another 40.
Yeah, it's a win-win for him, and you think makes a lot of logical sense all around.
Yeah, well, that's what they see. This is the thing that I'm saying about some of the decisions that Nate makes, because I'm going to myself. How can he trust this guy that we're just going to say to them back, knowing what he's involved in?
I assumed that this is what Nate assumed is that Roger Van Zant being somebody who he represents some criminals, but he's probably just a banking guy, and he's going to look at it from an investment purpose. Like, you're going to make 140% on this. Like, good for you. You're not only making the money you were going to make, but I just did you a favor. wouldn't you want these back to make more money because you're somebody who would be interested in money? He didn't expect him to take it so personally.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true as well. I made a note here, and actually, I'm wrong because I was watching it the other night and I realized this is LA. That car park reminds me of the car park at the start of The Dark Knight.
Yeah, well, it's funny because there is, even though it's an LA movie, Michael Mann is like known for Chicago. That's like where he like kind of got like that's where Thief takes place. That's where he found a lot of the people he usually works with is in Chicago. So it's funny that then The Dark Knight takes place in Chicago. I always wonder. It's like kind of triangle with Michael Mann and Christopher Nolan and Heat and The Dark Knight.
Yeah, but what it was watching, I was like, it looks like the car park, and then I was like, oh, this is LA. So, but it looks very similar to me. But then Nate goes on to tell Neil that Kelso called about a score he wants him to look at. He says that it's clean, and at low end it's 8 figures, and he asks Neil what happened out there, and Neil says, "Don't ask."
Don't ask.
And then we cut to Vincent pulls up at the crime scene of the heist. And I'm led to believe that a lot of those extras in the background there are real forensic detectives.
This does look like a real kind of crime scene. They do it very well. Al Pacino comes in and he's getting the breakdown from all the other cops. This is where we get to see Ted Levine, like, very different from his Silence of the Lambs look.
Bang, 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 bang. Side. This guy here.
He's got the thin hair. He's got the mustache. But I actually like him describing like what he thinks happened. He's like, these two got shot. And then like he's like the kind of way he's moving his hands around. A good little performance from him, I thought.
Yeah. And we were briefly talking about Ted Levine earlier. Of course, he is Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs. And just saying about his look, he's got that real 1970s, 1980s cop look about him with a big mustache and the balding head. Reminded me of John Ashton from Beverly Hills Cop.
Very similar looks, like where they just look like they don't really take care of themselves and they don't really like care about the suit too much. Like his suit's like on loose, it's wrinkly. Vincent Hanna's kind of on there a little bit wrinkly too, but he does his hair at least.
But do you think that like you had said that he's like a slob? Do you think that? Well, obviously, I believe that when you're making movies, especially when you're making a top class movie like this, everything's by design. So that's by design because these cops are being called out at all hours. They're working long hours. We don't see into his personal life, but maybe he doesn't have a woman to look after him, to iron his clothes, to whatever, without sounding sexist. But I'm just saying, like, you know what I mean? Like, to kind of like do that for him.
In that sense, also not only in the long hours, like you don't care as much about your look when you work that long. Like, you throw on the same suit you probably had on the day before. You just go home. The guy looks like he goes home, probably has a few drinks and passes out and goes to work the next day because it's all the limited amount of time he gets.
Yeah. So I think it's all by design, but yeah. And then one of the witnesses, say Ted Levine says one of the witnesses says that one of them called the guard slick. So that's their first clue.
So this is actually one thing I want to bring up that you were talking about, like with Wayne Grow, like how, the plot isn't the greatest thing. The word slick being a huge plot point in this movie has always bothered me because that's such a common phrase for people to call people is slick. Like, I just feel like that's the one, like, oh, he's over, like when later in the movie with the Tone Loc scene where he's like, oh, he calls people slick. And he's like, where'd you hear that? I'm like, you can hear somebody call somebody else slick at any restaurant in the United States. So I don't understand how that's something that's like exclusive to Tom Sizemore.
Yeah. And do you know what, as well, just I say, getting ahead of myself here, the strength of this movie isn't the plot. And sometimes, right, get away. I don't want her to knock his computer off. It's going to hit her nose. Trying to sniff at it. Sit down. I think that as well, John, there's a lot of like conveniences happen that out of all the people in LA, Al Pacino was able to call somebody up and he was able to say, speak to my brother. And then his brother's able to say, I was in prison with this guy, and he called someone slick. And they're like, who is it? Oh, it's him. And he's just happens to be part of this crew that done this. Do you know what I mean? And obviously, when you're telling a story, you have that, all the puzzle pieces have to come together, but it just seems a wee bit too convenient.
Exactly. It's a very convenient thing to have happen. It just feels like it'd be a needle in a haystack that somehow all comes together really easily.
Very easily. But sure, we'll forgive it because of the other the greatness.
We need it to get to where we're going.
Yeah, it's that overall it's not really about that, really. Yeah. So yeah, so as I say, they took $1.6 million in bearer bonds. Vincent says they knew the response time, and he says their mo that's they knew their mo. They're good, tactically proficient, and he tells them to run slick to the FBI and look into who's moving the bearer bonds and hopefully trace the explosives. If it's not exotic, they'll be able to trace them.
Yeah, but he pretty much knew, like, that's one thing I like, the little passing lines. You'll get back the phone book on Slick, but like do it anyway. And he's like, he probably knew
Yeah.
that like we have to do everything, but we already know like these guys are too professional and smart. We're probably not going to get anything back on this.
Yeah, I do. I like that as well. And look, it would have been convenient if the explosives were exotic, because then it would be a wee bit, easier to trace. But that is something at least they look into and go, oh, well, we can't find, which we'll touch on very soon. But yeah, we cut to the diner and the crew's hanging out, and Neil walks in. And this is where Wayne Gross says, look, I had to get it on, man. He was making a move. I had to get it on.
This fucking guy. And Neil's so mad, slams his face right into the table in the middle of the diner.
Do you know what? This actor playing Wayne Gross, he does such a good job, because I fucking hate him.
Oh, yeah. No, you do hate him. You hate everything about him throughout the entire movie. He's just such a horrible. You understand why they want to kill him. And, all the other guys, they don't even talk to him before Neil gets there. They just know he's in there. They know Neil's going to be pissed. And then, like, Neil lays it out, too. Like,
Splits in the car took out of ours evenly. Because I want to pay off and get rid of this motherfucker right now.
Yeah, that's right. And look, they're just basically keeping him there. Neil is obviously out meeting with Nate, and they're just keeping him there because they know we're gonna kill this guy. We're gonna take him out because of what he done. They didn't like what he done, and so they're gonna kill him. And of course, yeah, Neil makes after he hits him, and I like how when he bangs his head off the table, you see a guy behind. I think he's reading the newspaper. The glasses, kind of looking up, and then Michael just stares at him, and he just puts his head back down again.
Yeah, I'm like, that's like out of my jurisdiction. I'll stay over here.
That's kind of like what I would do too. I'd be like, oh, it's nothing to do, mate. Let me look at this menu again.
Food looks delicious.
Yeah, I'll order something else, or maybe I'll just leave. But yeah, he's pretending he's going to give him a sure to get him to the car, but they bring him out anyway. He give him a bit of a beating, bring him to the boot, and the boot is laced out with plastic. So in other words, they're going to do him and put him in there and get rid of his body. But next minute, I think it's Michael shouts, or is it Chris shouts, hold it?
That was Michael.
Oh, it's Michael shouts, yeah, hold it, as a cop car puts up. Now listen, again, I know it's a movie. I know we have to tell a story here, and I know we have to get plot moving and all these working pieces and all the rest. But every time I watch this, I hate the fact he escapes. I want to see him shoot him and put him in the boot.
I know. I want to. Every time I'm hoping he doesn't roll under the car. I mean, I know how he got away. Like, it's smart. It's pretty loud. So, like, obviously it would make sense for him to get away like that. But I hate that they lose him too, because that's why it's like such a satisfying death when we get to the end of the movie in part two. But it's like he just keeps getting away.
But I just don't understand. How did he roll away and De Niro not be aware of his surroundings?
I guess De Niro was looking at the
moving.
I guess part of the reason why the movie's he's paying attention to the cop and not actually looking at the ground.
Yeah, I know. It just bothers me. It just bothers me, that one. I always think to myself, I need to have a silencer.
I know.
You're not that sharp.
I know, exactly. Just honestly, you could have just still shot him there. But hey, what do we know? Well, you might have pulled the trigger, and the cops might have been like, "What the hell was that?" And then pulled right up on him.
Yeah. But of course, it's all part of the plot, all part of the show. But yeah, this next scene, I love this, John, where it's just a very quick scene where Neil arrives home at his massive beachfront property, and
beautiful look of the ocean.
Love it. Just the glass windows and the sea. He comes in, he puts the gun down, just that shot, and have him the music's playing, and he's just standing looking at the ocean waves. I think he's got nothing to come home to.
No, he puts the gun on his empty apartment. It's like he has to spend money on something, but he doesn't actually care about this kind of stuff. That's why he doesn't actually fill it up with anything. He just leaves it empty, but he's got to go home to something. But he probably buys and spends money on this beautiful apartment, but no, right, fills it up with nothing, no one to come home to.
His life's empty outside of what he does. When he's robbing places, his life is empty. He's nothing else outside of that. It's the same as we'll get it with Vincent Hanna. He does have a family, but he lives for the job.
Exactly. That's really what their life, what matters to them most in their lives are their jobs. Everything else is just kind of like superficial.
Yeah. Then we cut to Chris arriving home, and he has an argument with his wife, Charlene, who's played by Ashley Judd.
The Judds.
Yeah. And what I like about these scenes here it's kind of showing you as these scenes coming up. So we've seen the start of the day with these characters. We're now seeing the end of the day with these characters, and kind of like the parallels of their lives, how nobody's life is perfect, and how generally they're not happy in their personal lives at all. You know,
No, none of them are. I mean, I think Chris is
sit
kind
down,
of happy. I think he likes the idea of having
sit down.
like because he loves his wife. He definitely loves Charlene. He's also just got some real bad addictions. You can clearly tell that get in the way of like that's what's the burden on their marriage.
Yeah, but she says he gives her 8 grand, and she says, "Well, that's not enough." You know, she says about that it's not worth the risk for 8 grand. But he says he had some gambling. That's the payoff, and there's going to be more next week, so don't worry about it. She makes a comment about another fella, and then he loses it, which is a bit odd. She's taunting him about that. They're supposed to be married. This is the thing, wasn't it, the other night? Never dawned on me before. He's telling her to put her coat on. We're going out. But who's minding the child? Because then when he cracks up and smashes things, the child starts crying.
That's true. Who is going to be there? Are they taking the kid with them? I always thought
Mm.
they probably taking him with them, right?
The way he's like, we're going out. Maybe they were going out for dinner. I don't know. They could have took a child with them, but it seemed rather late.
It did seem late, especially since we see what time Vincent gets home a little bit later. But I thought it was like, depending on what it is, it could be only like 7, 8 at night. Maybe they're going out to dinner real quick, but I don't know. It is pretty strange about that. And he's violent, man. He's throwing things around. You can just tell he's frustrated.
Yeah, of course he's stressed out. As the movie goes on, you find out that we don't see the extent of Chris's gambling. But we know that he's a gambler. He's an addiction, and that's part of the reason that why he's still doing this.
Yeah, like the way this movie's getting the characters across to us is like we're picking up with them in the middle of their lives. Like, we hear how they were before, like what had happened. Like we hear about Vincent and his previous marriages, how Robert De Niro had no connections, but we're in the middle of their marriage. They seem like they've been married for a good amount of time. They have a kid together, but it's a marriage that has some issues like in everyday marriages, like one person stepping out on the marriage, one with an extreme addiction that probably causes the other one to step out. Like it's all here. It's just we don't get to see that. It's just kind of illustrated to us in these like little moments.
Yeah, and the thing about it too, when you look at the house he's living in, look at the lifestyle he's providing for his family. Now that probably causes extra financial pressure because
He brought it right up.
yeah, but once you get to a certain level, you have to maintain that, right? And so you got to keep doing it. You know what I mean? You got to keep bringing in the money to maintain that lifestyle. And it looks to me at this stage that she probably does love her husband, but it looks to me is that she's loving the lifestyle. Yeah, he's the one taking the bloody risk. But she's the one benefiting from it from the most, apart from his gambling. There's a big swimming pool and all there. Do you know what I mean? He leaves the house and it looks like, what is that, a Porsche or something as well?
Yeah. Well, he says to her, like, if you have a problem with it, leave the checkbook at the door. Like, essentially calling her out, like, you know what, you benefit from me. So if you hate it so much, leave. Like,
this is like the updated version of Doc Holliday. This is Big Nose Kate once again.
Yeah, it's funny that we're doing Val Kilmer again because his character in this is much different than his Doc Holliday character.
Yeah. Oh, he's such a great actor, John. And do you know what? I can't remember when I seen Heat. I seen Batman Forever in the cinema in the summer of '95. So I'm bound to have seen this. I think I must have seen this movie a year later. I don't even think I connected he was Batman when I watched it on TV. Maybe I did. I probably did. I was old enough to realize that. But his character in this movie always stuck out in my mind. And I don't know why. I don't know. He's just so good at it. I don't know what it is about him. He has a presence about him. Even though Al Pacino and De Niro are, mega stars, he still always stood out to me.
He gets to do a lot of his acting through his face, and a lot of his emotion comes across that way, which is so different from Doc Holliday. And it shows you how good of an actor he is because he and people knew he was so good in this movie because he gets on the poster with De Niro and Pacino, which is always fascinating to me. I always thought, is it a combination of his performance in here or it's 1995? He was just Batman. Like he's probably on top of the world. We could probably sell some extra tickets if we put his name on there.
Yeah. Well, I think just one thing about his presence, it's that I like the blonde hair with the ponytail and all. Do you know what I mean? Which is completely different to the way he looked in Tombstone and completely different the way when he was playing Bruce Wayne, right?
Well, at the end, do you think that it's always weird to me? He cuts his hair kind of like how he looks in Batman, like towards the end. I wonder if that was a choice because they wanted him to look different or if he already had cut his hair for Batman.
To me, that was just so he looked different, but maybe it could be because of Batman. But this, I'm not sure when this was filmed. I mean, the movie came out in December. Batman came out in the summer. Actually, there was the 30th anniversary there last month. It came out in June of 95. I would like to think that a big blockbuster like Batman was probably filmed before this.
Yeah, I mean it's very possible. I just always wondered because it's happened before at reshoots. If like in Top Gun, when you watch Top Gun, the elevator scene with Tom Cruise and Katie McGillicuddy, the reason why Tom Cruise's hair is wet and Katie McGillicuddy is wearing a hat is because they had already cut their hair different for other movies. Him for Color and Money, so he grew it out. So if you make it wet, it looks shorter. And she for something else, so they put a hat on her. So to cover up for the fact that they shot it way after they did things like that. And I always wondered if, like, we kind of have a good logical excuse here, or he could have just been wearing a wig. I might have just overthought that.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, but I think, look, I don't know. If I was to gamble on it, like Chris, I would say that Batman was in the can already before he even started filming this. Now, whether or not he's wearing a wig at the end or he's wearing a wig with a ponytail or whatever, I don't know. I just think it was to try and make him look different because the cops stop him at the end, sure. And he's and I because that's what I always thought. I know we'll get there in the next episode, but at the end of the movie, like all they had, I was another nitpick. Why did they need to hold his wife hostage in an apartment for him to roll up and walk through the door, or her to say it's him? I would say that if that happened in real life, if they suspected that was him, I would say a lot of police trucks would come out of fucking nowhere and they would have guns aimed on him and pull him out of the car.
100%. They would take him before that.
Yes. And if it was the wrong guy, it's the wrong guy. They wouldn't take the risk. They wouldn't say to a police car down the street, stop him and check him out. And then he gives him a fake ID and smiles and drives off. To me, that is
you hold somebody before, and then you've like, okay, we're wrong here. You may go now. But like, you would take him before. You would not, especially somebody who's just killed someone. They're not gonna risk it from
out of the bank with automatic weapons and opened up, and the whole police force and all. They would have just pulled that car over and took him out, and put his hand in the bonnet, put a gun to his head, said, "Right, here are you."
Then we wouldn't get one of my favorite scenes in the movie, so kind of have to have it.
But we'll get there. I'm sorry, we're too far ahead of ourselves there. But what was I going to just say? That the final part about this scene here as well, about Chris. What was I going to say about him? I can't remember. It's eluded me now. It may come back to me. But we're on the next scene, as you said, about the time that Al Pacino gets home at, the time that Vincent gets home at, but it cuts to him driving, and he gets a call, and he asks about his Albert Torina called back yet, and they say, nope, he hasn't called, and they said that the explosive is a Danax, and it's too common to trace a sale. So that's something that they can't trace.
Yeah, which makes sense, and I kind of figured that they would use something common. We know where he got the explosives.
Yeah, that's what it was I was going to say.
Yeah,
about the poster. You're right about the poster, because I thought about that too. I thought I thought it was great. Isn't it great that even my Blu-ray says Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, and Val Kilmer?
Yeah,
is yours said as well? Yeah,
yep. All three of them up top.
Yeah, and I think that's great. But you're saying, is it because of popularity at the time? It could be. But it's like I said earlier, when you think about it, they're the three characters that have the main stories.
Yeah, they dedicate a good amount of part of the ending of wrapping up the story, like to him and Charlene. They good amount of time is put to them, Al Pacino and De Niro. It's not just like everybody else in the crew. Like, we don't really wrap them up like that.
No, we know wee bits and pieces here and there, but like those three stories are kind of interconnected in a lot of ways. Yeah, so Vincent arrives home, and I love that. That's what I'm saying about. He comes home here, and he asks about is Lauren. That's what you call Natalie Portman's his character. He says, did Lauren's dad show up? And she says no. So he's more concerned about his stepdaughter. Or do you think he's just trying to change the subject, John?
Well, he knows he messed up, so he's trying to change the subject before she gets, because she knows that she's going to light into him, because she said, like, we were supposed to have dinner tonight.
Yeah. Or is he just trying to change the subject to take his mind off the job as
could
well?
Be that too. Maybe that's possibility too. I thought he was trying to deflect because he knows he messed up with his wife.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, it could be that, and because she says that every time I try to maintain a consistent mood between us, you withdraw, and he says, I've got 3 dead bodies on a sidewalk of Venice Boulevard, Justine.
I'm sorry that the chicken is overcooked. I'm like, I don't think that she's worried it's overcooked. It's probably cold.
Yeah. I love how he's like, I'm sorry if the goddamn chicken get overcooked. cooked.
Wipes his hands. Like it's like ridiculous.
Yeah. So yeah, so there we go. And there are the scenes there. We see the start of the day, we see what happens during the day, and then we see the end of the day. We see how unhappy they are in their personal lives, and that is basically what the movie is about.
Yep.
The end. Yeah, but we have this quick scene as well, which is a bit weird to me. I'm not knocking this movie. I still love this movie, as I said. I love the atmosphere of it. As I said at the start of the podcast, it's a slow burn for me. The older I get, the more it resonates with me, just about how tough life is. No matter how good you are, or no matter how bad you are, it's still tough, right?
Yep.
We all have our challenges in life to overcome, and personal problems and relationships and conflicts, whether it's work or at home or both, or But we've got this scene of Neil in the library, and of course we know as we find out later, he's picking up a book on metals because he's going to do this job. But you see her kind of walk past him and give him the eyes. Edie, played by Amy Brandman.
Beautiful hair.
Beautiful hair. I'm envious of it.
Yeah, I'm sure you are.
Beautiful face. And then conveniently, now I assume this diner is in that library.
I thought it was either outside, like next door or something, like very close. But yeah, I'm always very confused on where this diner is. First of all, very crowded diner. I don't think it's in the library, but attached to it.
Yeah, because I mean, we have a bookstore. Well, if it's a library, she works in our bookstore. I'm not sure, which have cafes in them.
Yeah, I've been in bookstores that have cafes in them, but nothing like to this.
Yeah, nothing like that. No, you're right. It's very crowded. But Neil walks in and just so happens to sit beside her, the girl that was eyeing him up, and he orders coffee, and he asks her to pass the cream. I know what cream she's looking. And
she wants that.
Oh, she wants the cream, and that's her opportunity to speak to him. Ooh. This whole relationship is just weird to me. I think it's sweet, but just how quickly it moves is just weird.
Well,
and maybe it just comes down to loneliness.
I have actually a very big note on this because I noticed something in the score for the first time with De Niro's character here, and very much how he lets his guard down on her is when he first starts talking to her, and she's asking questions, and he's like, "Why do you want to know so much about me, lady?" If you listen to the score, there's like a hum underneath it. And then the second, he realizes, she's actually being genuinely nice. She's not a cop or anything. That's part of the score stops. So it's like he had his guard up, and then he's like, okay, she's actually being genuinely sweet, and he lets his guard down right there.
That's true. Like she says, what do you get? What do you get? That's what I wrote down here. What do you get? And then he's like, what? She's like, what are you reading? A book about metals. And then she sees it's called Stress Fractures in Titanium. And then she asks him, what kind of work do you do? And this is where he says, lady, why are you so interested in what I read or what I do? and you're right. He's very defensive. And I think that just comes with the job that he's doing. He's got these defenses up. He won't let anybody in to his world because, as we have mentioned before, he's just so disciplined. And as I'm going to keep using this word because they use it in the movie, he's sharp. Right, so he doesn't need any inside interference. Kind of like what Quint was thinking when they were hunting Jaws. Brody doesn't need this interference from the outside world.
No, he just knows what he's doing, and that's the same thing with De Niro. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say about the score, John. I've never really noticed that before. It's something I must look out for next time I'm watching the movie. But you're right. When he looks at her and he realizes what he said is actually hurt her, and she's just being genuine and just being nice. You're right. He lets his defenses down, puts his hand out, and introduces himself. And they start up this conversation, and he says, "Hi, I'm Neil. I work in metals. I'm a salesman. I work in metals. I'm a salesman. He sells spoons."
Yeah, I don't know, but I guess it's like, all right, maybe I've never heard of a metal salesman. It's enough to move past.
I know. Well, she does. She moves past it very quickly. You know what I mean? Maybe she's afraid to ask again.
Well, in the movie, the fan, Robert De Niro's character, sells hunting knives, so nothing's out of the realm of possibility.
Although I'm just totally ignorant.
I don't know. Someone's got to sell it, I guess.
Yeah, somebody's got to do it.
Right.
So, so then we cut to the Neil and Edie on a balcony overlooking the city lights. They're having a drink and they're having a discussion about their lives and where they came from and things like that. Love how she says Scots Irish.
She looks like it.
Yeah, I think they call that Ulster Scots over here.
Oh, really?
That's the province I'm from.
That explains the hair and everything.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. But a lot of Scottish came and settled in the north of Ireland, you see, through
Oh,
the centuries. Yeah. And
really?
a lot of those people who are here now and are aware of that, they would call themselves Ulster Scots.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah. So it was
Ah,
during the plantation of Ireland. You know, I mean, this a lot of I think it was the king or whatever sent a lot, or the queen. It might have been the queen. I'm not sure. Sent
uh-huh.
a lot of Scottish over to the north of Ireland to colonize it. You know, so to keep it British, to keep it more British,
Mm,
because they were loyal to the crown. So a lot of the descendants would consider themselves Ulster Scots. So that's
bring
what
in some loyalists. Gotcha.
yeah. So I think that's basically what she's alluding to there. I'm Scots Irish, right? So
Mhm.
that could be that. But she says to come over in the 1700s. And I love how, what does he say? Where are you from? And he says, the Bay Area.
Yeah. He's like, I got a dad. He's like, a mom died when I was young. I got a father. Got a brother. Don't see him. Like, he's just got nobody.
Yeah, basically, yeah. He's got nothing. He only got furniture. But this is her apartment, isn't it?
Yeah, and she said it's like not that great, but it's got a beautiful view, which is true. It is a beautiful view.
Absolutely. And it reminds me of the scene in The Dark Knight. Again, I have to just bring this up. Um, it's where they're having the fundraising for Harvey Dent. And remember when Bruce Wayne walks out, he takes that champagne, he walks out to the balcony and he throws it over the edge. Doesn't
Yep.
drink it. He pretends to drink it. He throws over, and then Rachel comes out and says, "Bruce, don't make me your only hope for a normal life."
She's getting out.
Well, he says, "You said you'd be with me one day, Rachel." And they're standing at the balcony. It's just the two of them having a chat. That's what this reminds me of.
Ah, that's a great way to put that. I never noticed the similarities in those scenes, and I just watched The Dark Knight too.
Yeah, and they're having a similar well, not a similar conversation, but it is kind of similar in the dynamic of that. You know, she says she would be with him, and he says, "Well, if I give it up, will you be with me?" So here's Neil, who has met this girl, and this is the start of him considering giving it up to be with this girl, and he is living a double life and pretending to be somebody he's not, just like Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne is living a double life and pretending to be somebody he's not.
Yeah,
Right.
that's
The
a
only
great.
difference is Rachel's involved with somebody else, whereas this girl isn't.
Nah, she's completely single. Honestly, lonely. She just got there pretty recently.
Well, that was the thing too, John. Before, and I've seen this movie a few times, and I watched it last week, and I was rewatching it last night, taking a few notes, and I was thinking to myself, these are just two lonely people. That is exactly why they're opening up so much. Because they're two lonely people. They probably don't really have conversations like this, or many conversations like this, and I think that's why they're falling for each other very quickly and so hard. And just as I wrote that down, she says to him, says to Neil, "Traveling makes you lonely." And I love his line, and he's lying. I mean, I think he's lying. He says, "I'm alone. I'm not lonely."
Yeah, I think he's lying too. I always thought he was lying because obviously, like he niches onto her so fast that he must have been lonely. Maybe he convinced himself that he wasn't lonely.
Yeah. It's just he's not being truthful with himself.
No, I don't think so, and I don't think he wants to be yet. I don't think that. I think he lives in denial about that.
And the difference is she's a more, in my opinion, honest person because she's got nothing to hide. But I think Neil has a lot to hide, and a lot of it's to do with his past, as he alluded to, his mother and his father, where he's from, what he does. But she's straight up with him. She's an honest person, and she says, "I get lonely."
Yeah, she's very open. I think she's sweet, honestly.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I love the scenes with these two. It's just how quick it happens. It's like, oh, it's
Well, I mean, yeah, we got
quick.
to like we said, everything has gone perfect until we get to this point. Like until we get to this film, like we get Wayne growing her, like just throwing like these two obstacles in his path, like real
Yeah.
big test moments for him.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah.
And this, as we said at the start, this is what the movie is about, and it's about throwing these. It's about taking characters and throwing conflict into their life, and it's how they react. You see it in every movie. Every movie, all the best movies have it. All the best movies establish a character. They throw something in there which causes conflict, and it's how they deal with that and how they learn. Ultimately, how they learn from it, and that's a character arc. You know. And some people it's too late for, and other people they live to tell the tale. It cuts the next scene where Neil and Needy are in bed, and she's sleeping, and Neil gets up. Good guy. He goes in, he leaves her a drink. It's like a what would you call that? It's like a hangover drink, isn't it? What do you put in there? It's like an aspirin or something. It's all fizzes up.
Alka-Seltzer.
Alka-Seltzer. That's it. Yeah. So he leaves her a drink. So it shows there's a good side to him.
He's not just your stomach.
Yeah. He's not just gonna get up and just leave her. He's after a wee thing a wee sweet thing for her when she wakes up, just to show that he was thinking of her. And I wrote a line down here, John. She was easy.
Pretty easy, but like you said, she was lonely and he was lonely, so it's like, we had to kind of rush into this anyway.
Yeah, I'd be sitting thinking they should do this every night. They should do it every weekend. We'd seen her eyeing him up earlier.
I think that I think he was the first where she got the courage for it.
But I there's a scene later which I want to touch on if I remember about her character, and I think there's a lot going on there too that they don't say, but they just touch on.
Like I said, we're kind of like picking up at a moment in all these characters' life. We know a little bit about her background, but we don't really know too much. Like, I'm just like, that could just be me being naive, like, to the sense, like, I'm like giving her like a pass. Like, she seems so innocent and sweet, but she might not be. She might have had her own intentions.
The thing is, we've touched on it in recent podcasts as well, John, about character and about how you're telling a story, and I hate movies now which just introduce a character and tell us all about them at the start. And there's nothing else to learn about them as the movie goes on. Movies like this that basically are, in my opinion, character-based. We're learning about these guys as we go along. Our opinions are changing on them as we go along because we're learning more about them. And I think that's what's great about movies like this. There's always something to go back and find.
Yeah, I agree. And we're just like turning over new stones that were there.
Yeah, that's my opinion. That's what makes them last. That's what makes them endure. And that's why, I've heard an awful lot of people talk about it, and I hate to go back to it again because I'm watching a lot of stuff about Jaws' anniversary, and there's a lot of people on there that you find a lot of people who you realize are just like be obsessed with the movie, but a lot of these guys, same age as me, older than me, some people younger than me, saying that that's why they continue go back to Jaws because it changes over time. When they're young, it's about they love the shark, and as they get older, they love the characters. And that's why it endures for them. And I feel as if it's the same with Heat with me. It's the older I get and the more mature I get, even though I'm a 40 or 40-something-year-old in a child's body probably. But all I'm saying is that the older I get, I can relate to these characters more. And that's why I like this movie more. And it's not so much the robbing, you know what I mean? Obviously, I'm not a robber, but all I mean is it's just that the personal conflict in their lives.
Yeah, they're real people. I agree.
So, great scene coming up, John. Vincent and Drucker pull up outside this. It's like I think it's like is it a dog fighting pen, isn't it?
It's like a junkyard or something. I don't know where the hell this place is.
You're right. But I was watching the making of. They said it was like a junkyard, but it was a chicken fighting pen, and they changed it into a dog fighting pen for the movie because Michael Mann says he likes filming real locations so things feel real. And of course, Drucker is Bubba, as you mentioned earlier, from Forrest Gump. And obviously, he doesn't look like him because he hasn't got the lip.
No, I mean, he's a good actor. I've seen this guy in this. I've seen him in Free Willy. He's a great actor, good character actor.
Yeah, I heard a story that after Forrest Gump, that everybody said how amazing he was, and then he couldn't get any work because they all thought he had that lip, and he had to tell them, no, I was like a fake prosthetic or piece that I put into my teeth and my gum to push my lip out. My lip's not like that.
It's great. It's like, watch my other work.
Yeah, and I wrote his name down here. Now, his surname's Williamson. Can I say his first name?
You can give that a try if you like.
Micheletti?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one.
Micheletti Williamson?
Yeah, they probably Malik.
Micheletti.
Michael. Yeah, we'll just call him Mike.
I was going to say, just call him Bubba.
No, we'll call him Bubba. That works too.
Although I'd say his name in the films, Drucker. Or Drucker. I was just trying to remember to call him Drucker. But Mike's good. Makes a good call. So yeah, they've tracked down this fella Albert. So they'll have he's been avoiding them, and see, this is what I mean about it being just convenient. How did Al Pacino know? He'll know. This guy'll know.
I know, like of all people, like this guy will know. Like it works out. He's like his brother knows. He basically, but this is a cool scene too because of some of the lines that Al Pacino says. With the you get killed walking your doggy.
Oh well, that's later in the nightclub. This one here.
That's when he doesn't have one. I thought that was here.
No, it's not. It's not this one. It's later on when he meets the brother. But this is a great scene. The dialogue back and forth here is absolutely hilarious. Like, but he's avoiding him, and he says he was out all night. And Vincent says, "You're wasting my motherfucking time." And he says, "Give me all you got."
Yeah, give me
all you got.
Give me all you got!
this and
Give me all you got!
But he says to him, his brother Richard will meet him, and he's like, he says, I hear Richard. And he says he'll meet him. He says, tonight. He's like, was Richard here? He says, no, he'll meet you tonight. But basically, this guy is as we say, touting, or as you probably say, snitching, or ratting, right? So he's ratting to Pacino. So Pacino's turning a blind eye to a few things because he's getting information from off the street. And of course, Jagger mentions about his drugs, and he says about he mentions him having an addiction, have some empathy or sympathy, and he was like, I was say, sympathy was yesterday. Today, tell me what I need to know. But anyway, he says, meet my brother Richard at this nightclub tonight. And I love how Al Pacino says, you be there. And he's like, oh, I've got something on. He says, you be there. And as he's walking in, he turns around and he says, don't waste my motherfucking time.
Don't waste my motherfucking time!
I love it.
It's brilliant. I didn't really like when I watched this movie before, John. I always just thought, it's just Pacino being Pacino, but it's not. He's just so good at this character that he's kind of invented.
Yeah, from what I understand about Pacino, not on the screen is like, he's a very serious actor kind of guy. So this is just all choices for the movie.
Yeah, and when I watched the making of, like, they were really, I think it was the producer was really kind of like, he never really mentioned Pacino. He was lauding De Niro, and I don't know about you, but I think De Niro sometimes. I mean, Nicholson gets accused of playing Nicholson. I think De Niro plays De Niro more than anybody.
It's funny because this is the same year that Casino came out, and you could argue there's some similarities between Neil and Sam Rothstein there.
Yeah, and exactly. And I just look, I love De Niro. He's brilliant. I think I'm more of a Pacino man. I hate to kind of argue, or not argue.
It's hard.
Argument. I the older I get, the more I like Pacino because I look at his performances in his movies, and okay, he gets this kind of like criticism that he became this kind of more of a shouter in later years and more of a hoo-ha type of guy. But no, when I look at like Godfather, Dog Day, and then I look at Scarface, and then I look at Carlito's Way, and Donnie Brasco, and then this, they're all different characters.
Yeah, no, exactly. He plays different people, and De Niro does very much play De Niro in a lot of stuff. There's times where, it's just different levels of De Niro. You always know it's De Niro. It's always fascinated me, Scarface. Like, you can always forget that's Al Pacino.
Yeah, and I seen an interview with him when we were doing Dog Day, saying that somebody asked him what was your favorite role, and he said Scarface.
I could see that. I could see that being his favorite. Like, he really is a character, and like, this is kind of like, this is Al Pacino. Like, but it's Al Pacino because I feel like once we got to the 90s, he kind of did start to play up for the most part, like very similar sounding people, even if they were more like, except for Donnie Brasco. That's kind of the interesting one to me in the 90s. That's such a different character.
Yeah, because he's a lower level. You always think of Pacino being one of the top dogs when he does like a gangster movie, and he's playing a lower level guy in this, and he's being bossed around and kind of bullied and manipulated, and he's saying things in that movie which he wants to say to the people that's doing it, but he knows he can't because he doesn't have the balls or he doesn't have the status. Yeah. It's been a while since I've seen that movie, but it's a great movie. But I just feel as if, look, taking nothing away from De Niro, because De Niro was outstanding in Godfather Part 2. He won the Oscar. I love him in Taxi Driver. Of course, you talked about Raging Bull a Day in Your Life. Outstanding performance. I loved him in King of Comedy. Thought he was absolutely brilliant. But I just feel as if, like, the 90s, when he started doing Goodfellas and like Casino, and then this, when he tries to intimidate people, it's the same De Niro.
He puts the hand on the shoulder and he's got the finger, like, like pointing to like real close to you.
Like when he catches Charlene in the hotel room.
Oh, that's a total like Jimmy thing from Goodfellas.
It's like, who was that guy? You're done pushing the bloody the coat hangers. You know what I mean? You tell who was that guy? I've seen him do that a million times. Whereas like when I see Pacino, even if he's over the top, he's always got a wee different quirkiness about him, in my opinion, when he's going over the top. And I like the quirkiness that he puts into Vincent Hanna in this. You waste my motherfucking time.
He's just getting loud at all times. A little off the handle.
Yeah, brilliant. He's just doing that cocaine. So next scene, Neil meets with Kelso, and that's Tom Noonan, who we touched on it earlier. Manhunter. He plays the Tooth Fairy in Manhunter, which was a Michael Mann film.
Yep, he's basically the guy. I love him. He's a good actor. good character choice here to give. He's the one that's basically got the plan together. He's the one pitching Neil on it. He's the one who John Voight said, like, okay, this is the guy you go talk to. He's got this whole plan. He just wants basically a cut for funding the job. And he's got all the plans and layouts and everything for it.
Yeah, Tom Noonan also played the bad guy in RoboCop 2.
Yes, that is true. He's a good bad guy.
He's brilliant. Yeah, he played Kane. Yeah, you're right. He's giving them the lowdown about the bank, and he says he wants 100 grand up front and 10%. And I love how he's like, he says to him, look, the night before you cut in and trick out the security alarm system, and the video recorders go off 20 minutes before you walk in the door. And he says, how much is it? And he says, I estimate 12.1 to 12.2 million. And De Niro's like, you're on? Yeah, so that's right. So he basically says to him as well, where does this information come from? This is like when the internet was just starting off, like the mid 90s. He's like, it's everywhere. It's up in the sky. It's just you just have to know how to grab it.
Which is probably true of the early internet, or it's like a Hollywood misunderstanding of the internet.
So he's a hacker then.
Yeah, exactly. And that's basically what they use him for. And I feel like they put him in the wheelchair and everything, like as like a reason like behind that, like, he's just always inside on the computer.
Yeah, he can't really get out much, and this is what he does all day. But correct me if I'm wrong, John. Is there a big satellite dish, or was that a big fan? I can't remember.
I can't remember either off the top of my head.
Yeah,
satellite would make sense though.
Yeah, and like we're saying there, this is all before like the internet really took off, so it makes sense that this guy's ahead of the curve, where everybody else is, Neil is like advanced in their techniques for robbing, but he hasn't thought about this type of thing. That was another thing too, and we'll get into it, later on. But I just find as if for these guys to be so clinical, to rob a bank like that in broad daylight with their faces and all, and I just thought it was a bit amateurish for them to be professional.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of things that they do that are amateurish. Makes you wonder about Neil a little bit.
Even if, and of course, we're living in a world now, John, 30 years down the lane, where you can't walk down the street without a camera being on you, right?
No,
but
very different.
The thing is, very different times. But I just felt as if, okay, they're cutting the security stuff and the cameras and all, but I still felt as if it was a bit amateurish.
It's a satellite, a gigantic satellite.
It is a satellite. Yeah. There you go. So that's giving you a hint there that he's up to stuff there, like.
Okay.
Yeah, because he gets in the plans and everything of the bank too. So he does. But then in the same scene, we've got Nate on the phone with Van Sant, and he says to him, no one knew the merch was yours, and he agrees to buy the bonds back. But when he comes off the phone, he says he's going to kill him. He says, the word's out in the street that it's okay to rip me off. I'm going to kill these guys.
Now, do you think that the William Fincher character of Mr. Van Zandt here, he's put in The Dark Knight at the beginning as an homage to him? He works in the bank again?
Oh, yeah, 100%. That's I've seen somewhere, I read somewhere that was on purpose because Nolan loves...
I always thought it was because like he works in the bank too?
Yeah, that was totally done on purpose by Nolan. Yeah, because he loves heat.
Okay, yeah. I wanted to make sure. And the guy he gives the note to like the guy wearing the turtleneck, that's Henry Rollins. I don't know if you recognize that guy.
So who's the guy? What he gives him the note? The guy in it's like his bodyguard or something, isn't he?
Yeah, the guy doing the dirty work.
Yeah, who is that? I don't know who that is.
That's Henry Rollins. He's the lead singer of Black Flag. He's a big punk rocker, that guy. But he transitioned to acting. He was in 1998's Jack Frost. He's one of those guys you probably might have recognized his face. Look up the song "Liar." He's really good.
You want to know why? 'Cause I'm a liar.
He's of the 80s kind of punk scene.
Right. I didn't even know that. I don't think I'm really aware of them, to be honest, John. Maybe if I hear the song, I'll go, oh, I know that.
Yeah. You wouldn't think that this guy would transition to acting, but you've probably seen his face in other things, and not because he never really got big roles, but he's played some small stuff.
Yeah.
I just always thought it was cool because I liked his music.
Yeah. You're like, what's he doing in this?
Yeah. Exactly. It's so strange.
So weird. Just pops up. It's like the guy at the start from Jurassic Park. I'm like, what's he doing in this?
Yeah, they don't always give these guys a lot of lines, but it's I kind of like your look.
Could you imagine him walking in, gives your CV, planes, trains, and automobiles, Jurassic Park, Heath? Oh my God, you must be amazing.
I play some big roles.
Really small parts,
But they're memorable.
They're memorable. It's a memorable face. But he's good. I like him in Jurassic Park as the lawyer. He gets killed on the toilet seat. He does. But yes, anyway, so Nate tells Neil to call Van Sant and collect the money. He says to him, is this guy okay? And he says, he's a businessman. So that goes back to what you said, John, about why, because I'm like, why does Nate think this guy? And you're right, but it's because he thinks he's a businessman. It's just about making money. He's not a really, well, I suppose he is a kind of like a gangster, but he's not a gangster maybe under our level where he's out robbing places. So he thinks he's going to go along with this. But Neil comes home to find Chris sleeping on his floor, and he calls Charlene to tell her. And he asks her what's wrong, and she's very hostile to him. She says, husband and wife stuff. I think Neil gets the message there, and he just says, I'll let him sleep it off here. And he hangs up on her. And that's when Chris wakes up and he asks, what happened to you? And he says, he says they had a row, and he asks him, when are you going to get furniture? And he says, when I get around to it. So I thought that before he said that, I remember watching this a few years ago. And before he actually said that, I went, because it's the first time you really see his place in the daylight. Because when you see before, it's just him standing at the glass, I think. I was like, where's all this furniture? And then he
doesn't
asked,
have nothing in there.
no.
Got some coffee cups.
Well, you look behind, he's got this big, massive kitchen, the glass doors, and there's like, you can see Delphin there and stuff, so there's a few things, but just to eat his food off, but he probably doesn't even do that.
No, he's like,
use him.
No, he's like, if I'm home, I just want some coffee, and that's really it. And I'll bring whatever I need with me. But I mean, he's got this beautiful deck, everything. What a waste!
It's such a waste. Imagine the parties you could have her.
Yeah, he doesn't even sleep there probably.
Yeah, and then he asks him, "When are you going to get lady?" And he says, "When I get around it." The same line, and that's when he says to him about remember Jimmy McElwain on the Yard used to say, "You want to be making moves in the street. Have no attachments, although nothing to be in your life that you cannot walk out on 30 seconds flat if you spot the heat coming around the corner."
And that's the movie right there for him. Like that explains his character and why he does what he does.
Do you know the next line explains Chris's? Because he says to him,
"For me, the sun rises and sets with her, man." Yeah.
That's what's most important to him is his wife.
Yeah, because he mentions before about if you anything on the side. And he says nothing regular. So he is cheating on her, but it's just nothing, just now if he meets someone, maybe. And then he says, what about her? And he's like, no.
Isn't it weird that De Niro kind of suspects this right away?
Yeah, it's just an intuition. Do you know what it is? You know what's really weird, John? It's because I think it's just one of those things where it's like, you say we're beating these people in the middle of their lives. I just think it's one of these things. Do you ever notice that when there's a crisis going on in your own life, right? Like most of the time, you're never the one to see it coming. Right? Or and you can never give yourself the advice to kind of like work around it or work it out. But people on the outside can see it coming a mile off. It's because you're mostly involved in the situation at that particular time that you can't see anything else. And I think it's the same. Like I think there's people that you see things happen to them and you can give great advice, but if it's happening to you can't see it.
That's a great point. Because De Niro can kind of pick up on it. He could see that their marriage is probably very rocky, and like he said, he sees that he probably knows about his gambling issues. Like that's probably weighing on her, and she might be stepping out now, and it's like you are too. So it's like, but it's the difference, kind of like when people say in male and female cheating. Like she's cheating because she doesn't feel like her husband's giving her the attention she wants. Meanwhile, he's cheating just on physical reasons, probably.
Yeah, because he's maybe out with the boys and just reliving his youth and all. Doesn't make it any better, doesn't make it right, but
no.
Yeah, but I think that you're saying about is it funny how he catches on this quickly, is that I just think he's looking at it from the outside looking in. He's looking at it from a different perspective, whereas Chris is mostly involved, but he's also too wrapped up in the gambling, and of course the pressure of carrying out these scores as well. It's an awful lot of pressure. It's not like he's going to a job and doing a 9 to 5. He's going out there every day. He could be shot dead. And if he gets caught, he could be going away for a long time.
Yeah, it's not a regular day job.
No, it's not a regular day job. So I think the fact that De Niro is a guy who's looking at it from the outside in, he suspects that obviously that there's something more than just maybe Chris's addictions and his other life. But he says to him, I like how he said he's equating what he's doing to his life. He's saying, he's pretty much saying that you can't live the life you're living now if you want to do what you want, if you want to do what you're doing, because you've got to be prepared to walk away from it. And if you're not prepared to walk away from it, then maybe this life isn't for you. But Chris has already said about his gambling debts, and when he says about the son raising and sitting with her, Neil accepts that. And maybe that is a bit of peace of mind for Neil because he's just met this woman. And maybe he's starting to think, well, if he can do it, maybe I can do it. Maybe I can have a life outside of this.
That's exactly what he's thinking. Like, maybe this could be me.
And so when he accepts that and he says to him about, okay, and he says, do you want a coffee? He said no, but he says to him about, first of all, he says to him, sorry about the he tells Chris that they're going to take delivery of the cash from Van Sant, drop the deposit to Kelso for the bank, and that's the first Chris has ever heard of the bank. He's like, what bank? And he's like, and he says about what about the platinum thing? He says it's ready to fall, and he says we're going to take the platinum thing, then we're going to take the bank.
Setting up what their work is going to be going forward.
And this is where we cut John to a new character. We cut to a man called Don Breeden.
Yep.
And yeah. Now, I think this is something I meant to say at the start, talking about this coming from LA Takedown. It was a pilot for a TV show which never got picked up. And then when the producer read the script, he said to Michael Mann, you need to make this as a feature film. And this is what got the ball rolling. And I feel as if this movie, in today's world, this probably would be made just as a TV show on Netflix or something. But I feel as if this basically is like a 3-part miniseries made into a feature film rather than a feature film. But the fact that they kept this subplot in, I think a lot of people and a lot of studios may have said, you don't need this. You're just the 3 guys, just use go and do the job, the job. They would have thought of something else. But the fact that they put this wee subplot in here for this character and give us a wee bit of a side story with this guy, what do you think about that?
I mean, I like it. I kind of like where because it's just another person, like he ends up getting the job. So I think it's actually pretty cool because it makes it's showing us again another character, a character who looks like he's trying to turn his life around. He's kind of stuck between like the straight life or going back to a life of crime. He's got the girlfriend. I like him. I like the character. I like the actor too. That's the guy that's the All-State guy.
I know his face.
He's in Major League. He's in he plays the president on 24. He's a very recognizable kind of guy. Yeah. He'll always be Serrano in Major League to me though.
Yeah, I know his face. I haven't seen Major League, and no, look, I like it because he's on a different path than the guys we've already met.
He's not like a definite part of the crew. He's a fill-in actually.
Well, they know him. He's done jobs with them before. You'll find out later. But and there's a great scene later on with him. We'll get to it. But yeah, I like the fact that here's a guy, as you say, he's just got out of prison. He's on parole, and it's always that idea. It reminds me as well. Actually, I've got it written down here, but I'll get that. It's basically like it's that typical thing of like if you stay in the straight and narrow, you'll live. If you go off and do the wrong thing, you're gonna die. And if he had just stayed in the diner, he would still be alive.
Yeah, but for him, what they want to show us is like when the second he meets his boss and stuff, his boss is such a dick, and it's just showing you like the real world is just beating him down, and it's not what he's used to. He's got to go turn back to what's easier for him. Yeah,
well, you could argue that doing that job is what pushed him back there because he because of how much of the boss is an asshole to him. When he comes in, here's these guys out of prison. Okay, the parole officer told him to go drop by because he has that job there at the diner for him. It's probably part of his parole, but prison's supposed to be about rehabilitation, and especially if you've been away for a long while, it's about integrating back into society. And if you've got people that are treating people that have made mistakes in their life wrong, bad like that, then it's going to push them towards crime again or doing a bad thing rather than showing them that there's another way.
Yeah, this guy's a bad person as it is. Like he might not be a criminal. Like he looks down on these guys automatically, and he's like, "Well, I'm doing you a favor, so you can do me a favor, and you're gonna do me the favor. I'll kick you back." And it's like, well, so you're just basically just a bad person, in my opinion. That's just generally what you are.
Yeah, but the thing is, too, in his defense, when he says about if you steal, if you do this, do that, I'll parole, blah, 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 I'll tell you about your parole guy, and you'll be back again. But the thing is that he probably has been taking other people on where they've probably stole from him or done things to him as well. But I totally agree with you. He needs to be a wee bit more compassionate. You know what I mean? You can't judge people like that. You judge people how they treat you, and he was treating them with respect. So he should have treated them with respect back, and he didn't. That's just my opinion on how you should treat people. And but I've written a note down here, John. He got the Norman Bates diner job.
He did. He basically did that. He does the exact same job. Much busier diner.
Yeah, but nicer boss in Psycho
Yeah.
2.
Yeah.
He
Very
he was
true.
he was a nicer boss. What's
He
the
was.
trouble, Norman?
He felt a little bad for Norman. This guy doesn't feel bad at all.
Everybody felt bad for Norman,
He seemed innocent.
even the cop.
Yep.
Yeah,
He knows that he was just lost his mind a little bit.
yeah, it wasn't his fault. It was his mother's.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, next scene, Neil calls Van Zandt for information on the pickup, and he sees Charlene and a man leaving a motel room. So this is what I was talking about earlier. He confronts her and asks Charlene to give Chris a chance.
Yeah, one more shot, and if he fucks up again, he's like, I'll pay for your life and set you up, out of my pocket.
Yeah, which is a bit weird. Like he says, he was like, "Who was that guy? Who was that guy?" And she says it's Alan Marciano. He's a liquor salesman from Las Vegas. She folded like a deck of cards, didn't she?
Yeah, and doesn't he not turn out to be a liquor salesman from Las Vegas or something like that? Doesn't he turn out to be a cop?
Oh, he's not a cop though.
No, okay, so he is just a piece of shit liquor salesman from Vegas. That's right.
I'm not sure what his job is, but she says not. I wrote down liquor salesman. He's a liquor distributor or something. I think that's what I'm not. Well, that's what she says. I can't remember. I must double check and find out exactly what his job was because we get to his office later on, and yeah, she voted like a deck of cards, and De Niro says, if I give him one more chance, if it doesn't work out, then I'll set you up, which is a weird offer to make because if she's already at her wit's end with him, what's to stop her sabotaging it just so he can set her up?
Because I think she really still loves him, but she really is like literally at her wit's end, and he's like gonna try and work it out with Chris, or he knows like this big job for Chris should pay off all his debts, and I assume he goes back to Chris and like, you gotta turn it around or you're gonna lose your whole life.
Yeah, I get the feeling there's a deleted scenes on the Blu-ray. I haven't watched them. I don't even know how long they are, John, but I also get a feeling that this movie was a lot longer. I feel as if there's wee small scenes that are inserted in there and there's bits missing that they maybe looked at the runtime, and I'm guessing here and went, this is too long, cut it down, and then it's like, well, that's long enough. Do we really need this? Do we really need to tell that? We can just hint at this and we can just do that because, as I say, he's had the confrontation with her having the affair with this Alan Marciano is integrated to the whole plot. So they had to have that in there, and him having the conversation with Chris at his empty apartment was enough for us to know that Chris loves her and isn't going to walk away from her. So that's basically all we need, really, don't we?
Yeah, that's true. And De Niro feels like okay, this is the most important thing in his life. I got to do my best to try and save it for him.
Yeah. But he feels like I mean, you can see they have a connection there, him and Chris, and he probably feels responsible for him. Maybe responsible for some of the stuff he's involved in. So next scene, Vincent arrives at the nightclub and meets Richard.
Yep, Tone Loc.
Yep, he's the cop from Ace Ventura.
Yeah, he's also the guy who sings Funky Cole Medina and Wild Thing. So I love Tone Loc. I just heard Tone Loc when my wife was watching a show today. He was on it.
Was he? Yeah.
I love him. I always recognize that voice.
Yeah, I really like that voice. Here's the theme, man.
Yeah. To the other side of the cantina, I asked the guy why he's so fly. He said, Funky Cole Medina.
Gotta get out of here, Ace.
Hey, Ace, my boss is coming.
I love it. And he's another one who folds up like a lawn chair.
Imagine if Al Pacino walked in and bent over and says, "Can I ask you a few questions?"
Yeah.
It's a great ass. It's a great ass. That sounded more like Columbo there in the later years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love how he calls him cuz, and I love how Pacino says him, "I ain't your cuz, you rap motherfucker."
Calls him out for what he is. He's like, "You're still a fucking rack."
See, he thinks that because he says, "Oh, you want me to take out your competition?" He thinks, "Oh, if I tell you this, you're gonna go and sort out all these bad guys for me, so I can run my own operations." And Pacino or Vincent just doesn't fall for it. He's like, no, you tell me what I need to know. And that's when he says to him about, you don't understand. He's like, I get killed for telling you this shit. And that's when he says, you could get killed for walking your doggy.
Yeah, you get killed walking your doggy.
Which to me is a veiled threat.
Yeah, that's true.
You think so? It's a veiled threat?
Bit. Be careful. You can get killed anyway.
Yeah, we'll kill you if you don't tell us what you want us to know.
Yep.
That's what it comes across to me.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it does come off, and I don't think he's above it.
Yeah, and I love how he's like, okay, and he says, I was in prison, and this guy was talking about something. He said, I can't remember what it was. Didn't write it down, but he says he must have had something big going on. And then Pacino was like, right, and he's like, he says, then when I got out, he says, I saw him on the street, and Pacino at that stage is like, oh my god, he's like, you saw a guy on the street, an ex-con. I am over fucking whelmed. And that's what he says about, he said about he's slick. He mentions
Yeah.
slick. And that's
That's what
what
I'm
he gets up to
talking about.
leave. Yeah, and he mentions about slick. And then he sits down, he says, tell me more about this slick. And that's when he tells him his name is Miguel Chorito.
Yep, and then of course, like that's Tom Sizemore's character, which the slick thing again. It's a plot for me. It's just it's too much, but I understand again a lot of things we have to keep the plot moving.
Yeah, it's just very like I say. Look, if you really analyze this and you go to yourself, so these guys are pros. They've just robbed this truck at the start. One of the witnesses heard the guy called Slick. Pacino said, "Get me your man Albert. He might have information for me." He meets Albert. Albert says, "I don't know, but speak to my brother Richard. He might know." So he goes to speak to Richard. Richard goes, "I was in prison with this guy called Michael who calls people slick." It's like, really?
Okay, it all came together here now, didn't it?
So convenient.
I
And yeah. But anyway, Neil phones his team and tells him to surveil Michael 24/7.
Yep, which makes sense, of course.
And we have next day, we have the Van Zandt money pickup. Now I have to say, I love this scene.
Great scene. This is where we get to really hear the gun audio, which we'll get more into in the second part with the bank heist thing. But the way the gun audio in this is it's amazing. Some of my favorite audio design in film history.
Yeah, 100%. It's amazing. I always tell people that story about the audio design when we're talking about movies and Heat comes up. I always tell them about, do you know the gunshots? I always tell them that. But yeah, this is a great action sequence. John, I really like it. How when the guy comes out and he's trying to kind of assassinate Neil and Chris is on the roof and he just radios in and says, "You're right," at the back. And De Niro doesn't really have time to react other than
To
put
slam
the
it
car in
reverse.
reverse. Yeah, kind of injure him. But then I love how Chris rolls around on the roof and bounces up with that weapon and starts firing at the car as it's driving towards him. He obviously doesn't hit the driver.
No, what that surprises me because I was like, is it bulletproof? Because it looks like he hits dead in the center of the windshield. Maybe he was ducking.
Yeah, I thought the same thing again when I was watching. I was like, how did he miss him firing at that there in that windscreen? Whether or not it just went past him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Maybe
maybe.
it was
It's like it
pure
looks like he
luck.
shot it like it could just be pure luck that he got lucky because it's like, the guy's not moving. He's stopped there.
Yeah, but what I love is how De Niro's backed up and he starts driving towards the other guy and he starts firing at De Niro. De Niro's firing through the window, but then Chris knows to turn and he hits him first.
Mhm.
And then obviously De Niro shoots him, runs him over, and then we have Michael coming around the corner with a shotgun and taking the driver out of the car.
Two
So-
great sequence in here with like a bunch with people dying while driving cars. One here and one later when a character we were just talking about dies as well. Very realistic, like how they fall on the steering wheel and like in movies all the time. It's like they get shot, they like slam on their brakes. I'm like they're dead. They're not gonna they're gonna just like kind of coast into the wall. I'm like, and that's what happens here.
Yeah,
I like
that's
that.
true.
Little details like that.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Listen, that goes back as well to what we were saying today. I know some people may not have listened to the live stream, but if they have, or they've went back and listened to it, like you were saying about Dennis was talking about realism in the movies. I think the point I was trying to make is as well, mate. I commented on is that I don't need to see something coming from like different angles, or do you know what I'm saying? I just think for realism, all you need to do is take this scene for an example. You know what I mean? Gunshots going off. You see the result of the gunshot. And then that's it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. We know he's dead, and then that's it. Like we see the guns, like him getting shot with the shotgun in the car, and him like reacting to it, and the blood splurting.
Yeah,
perfect, and it's quick. You don't even need much of it.
It's quick, and thank God I've never witnessed anything like that. But I would imagine if something like that happened in real life, it would be like that. It would be quick. You would just see it happen like that, and you would almost be like, Jesus, that just happened.
Yeah, movies exaggerate a lot of stuff. I've always heard if you were to be shot, you wouldn't even hear it until you had already been shot, just because of the way sound moves. So it's like, that's kind of a movie thing.
Oh yeah. Well, usually the bang comes after, doesn't it?
Yeah, like you've already been shot, but like in movies, it's like they hear the bang and they have enough time to move.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's like
Yeah, that's true.
no,
Yeah.
you'd be dead, but this is movie logic.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, we see in the package it's just paper money and or just paper, sorry, paper money. It's just paper. And yeah, I love this bit scene as well, John, where
this is great.
Neil calls Vincent.
He says the line. He's like, who's this? He's like, he's like, then he goes through and he's like, who are you talking? He's like, I don't know. I'm talking to an empty telephone line because the guy on the end of this is a dead man.
Dead man. But like he phones him and he says, "You know who this is?" And he's like,
yeah, I think I do.
Yes, I do. Did you not get the package? And he's just, I don't know why I don't like kind of English accent there. He's not English, but he was like, yeah, but you're right. He says, forget the money. I was criticizing De Niro earlier. I do like him in this scene, but that's basically just your man out, Jimmy Conway.
Yeah.
In this scene. Yeah. He says,
exactly. It's just a threat. I'm talking to an empty phone line because the guy on the other end is a dead man.
Yeah, it's the way he says, I've got, because I actually wrote it down here. So it's just like, he says, it's a lot of money. What are you doing? What do you mean? Forget the money. What am I doing? I'm talking to an empty telephone. And he's like, I don't understand. And he says, because there's a dead man on the other end of this fucking line. Absolutely brilliant. But then, see, this is now, it sounds like criticizing this movie. Not. But there's certain choices I go, again, convenience. And it's certain choices which I go, really? I know they're close. They said at the start, you had tight crew. Me personally, I think it's wrong and a bad idea if you're that professional to be hanging out socially with the other guys.
Dinner, right?
Yeah, with dinner, yes, together with the people that you're doing robberies with. That's just me personally. I don't think that's a good idea, mixing business and pleasure.
No, I agree.
If you're supposed to be that sharp, right? There's a dinner scene. But I understand for the story what they're showing here because everybody's got their family around them but Neil. And this is where you're focused on him. This is about Neil. This scene is more about Neil than anybody else. Well, it's about the rest of them, but it's more about him. But it just shows you like everybody's got someone.
Except him.
We see Michael, he's got his wife and his kids. We see Chris and Charlene seem to be getting on for a change. And then we see, I think Trejo's there with his wife as well. And then we've got Neil on his own. And while they're all interacting with each other, kind of loved up and doing, the couple thing or the family thing, you see he's like a gooseberry. He's just participating in their joy. He's got nobody else to turn around and have a conversation with or to build a life with or to talk about a future with. All these other people sitting at this table, this is what they're doing. So it's kind of like he's kind of probably thinking, well, what am I doing this for? They go, I've got all this money, robbing all this money. I have an apartment with no furniture and I'm coming home to nothing. What am I doing it for? And, these guys are doing it for one reason or another.
Yep. And they all, exactly. And it's like, it's starting to like click in his head is like, what's my reasoning? Because like, what am I coming home to? Like, what's going to happen when I'm not?
Yeah. And I think this is when he's starting to think about, I need to do something other than just this. And he knows from what he said to Chris earlier, he knows he can't do both.
Nope.
He has to choose one path in life. And that's when he calls Edie and asks to see her. And I like this because even though I was joking earlier, joke with a jag saying earlier about, this happened quick and she's must be easy and stuff like that. Obviously she's not, because I like this scene with him again. And she was like, I was afraid that was a one night thing. And he says, it wasn't for me. And she says, me neither. And he says, can I call by? And she says, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's sweet. Again, I think she's a very sweet character.
Yeah, I like this. She's too good for him.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So Vincent and co, when they're leaving the restaurant, they're surveilling the team, and they're all coming out. And of course, his police officer friends are giving the lowdown on the gang. He basically, somebody mentions about, I think their next job's going to be this metals place. I don't know where they're getting that from.
I'm not too sure, but like, this is kind of like we're getting the crew, the LAPD, like getting their look at the crew, which will be, we'll get the opposite of that pretty soon.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, so I think Pacino says something along the lines that next time they go and do a job, they're going to get a big surprise.
Yep. Like they think they got him.
Yeah. But they don't know who Neil is. They say who's the loner or who's the lone wolf or something, who's the loner. And then they say, we don't know who he is.
Yeah. Because Neil's been clean and smart this whole time.
So cut to Wayne Grove with the young girl in the hotel. And
I believe a prostitute, if I'm correct.
yeah, she's a young prostitute. She's basically, saying I'm gonna have to go now, whatever. And he's creepy. Did you not notice? I only noticed this last night. How he has a swastika tattooed on his chest or on his torso.
Yeah, kind of makes sense to me while he's with a black girl, but again, this is supposed to be just pure evil. This guy, every which way. So who's more evil than a Nazi?
Yeah, exactly. I didn't notice that. First time I noticed that last night.
Yep, he's a piece of shit every which way, and this girl's still with him, of course, because even though she's black, but he's paying her.
Yeah, well, she's there for the money, and that's what she's hitting at, and that's why he's kind of like, he's like, oh, wasn't that good to you? And she was like, oh, the best I've ever had in my young life, and all this, but just bullshit from her. She just wants to get paid, and that's fair enough.
Yeah,
that's her prerogative. And but then he says the Green Reaper's visiting with you, and then it cuts to the hotel bar, and he asks the barman again, convenient. He says somebody's put him in contact with a guy at the bar, and the barman, he says the barman put him in contact with someone, then get him something heavy. In other words, work.
Yep.
Get him some work, whatever that work may be, so he can earn money. And then we, again, just like the gangsters or the criminals are hanging out with their family for dinner, we now see the police having a party. Vincent's beeper goes off, and his wife says, oh, this better be, or no, he says it better be earth-shattering, because it's almost like they're enjoying themselves. It looks like he's loosened up, he's having a good time. He says, I can't keep my hands off you. I can't keep my hands off you. And his beeper goes, he says, oh, this better be earth-shattering. And whatever message he gets through, he has to arrive at the crime scene. And it's that girl's body, Wayne Grove murdered. The cop on the scene tells him that she's 16, 17 years old. And she says it's the same as the others. Her head's beat in. So this is telling us right now that Wayne Grove is actually a serial killer. And of course, Vincent Hanna and the police are aware of this serial killer. She says about this is a series of girls now, and it's in your district.
Yep.
So
it's a subplot that they kind of abandoned or just like kind of leave there, but don't really go too much further into it. That Wayne Girl's a serial killer as well.
Yeah, because this is really funny, because this is more to do with, because this is the thing. This goes to David Chase and The Sopranos, because as we all know, I'm sure anybody's listening to this has seen Heat, and Wayne Grove dies. But the police, there's no kind of indication that the police have
any idea
that this is the guy killing these girls.
Because you would think they wouldn't put him up in a hotel room like that, even though they have surveillance on him, if he's a fucking serial killer, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, they might use him. If he was a serial killer and they knew it was him, then they might still use him to catch Neil.
You think they still would?
I think they would still use him, but it would be a case of, yeah, well, we're not going to give you, I don't know what it's like in each state in America, John, but it might be a case of, we're not going to give you the electric chair, we'll give you life, but you got to help us.
I guess that's
But if
fair.
you don't, do you know what I mean? That's what I'm thinking. So, but the thing is, it's more to do with the plot of this movie, as in, like, there probably was more to do with this. I'm assuming that it's just been cut because they thought, well, we don't need it, because Vincent being called out of the party and looking at the girl's body, it's more to do with Neil's relationship with his wife rather than Wayne Grove being a serial killer. That's what it's more to do with.
That's true. Yeah, it's not. It's just funny how like they get him later in the movie and they don't even realize what they got.
Well, that's the thing, because when he dies, then the killings stop, and I go back to what I was going to say there. David Chase and The Sopranos says that life doesn't always work out that you get the answers. Many stories do you hear of people, I watched one the other day, but a person going missing 30 years ago and they've never found out what happened to her. Now, that's just one instance. That could have been a serial killer. How many instances do you know of that there's people going missing that never catch a serial killer? Look at the Zodiac killer. They never caught him.
That's
do you know what I mean? Jack the Ripper, different times.
And they could have died like this. Like the Zodiac killer could have died in like 75 and we all have no idea.
They think that either Jack the Ripper died or was incarcerated.
Yeah, like we just wouldn't know. Like, and it's too late to find out. Like, we're never going to find out, probably. It'll never be definite because they're gone.
Yeah, you'll never be able to 100% say it was definitely him or whatever. Same and as time moves on, it's like the Zodiac killer, a more recent one. As time moves on, the chances of you actually finding out who that person was gets slimmer and slimmer with time, because you lose witnesses, you lose forensics, and then the person eventually dies. And then you probably can't link DNA or whatever it may be. But look, I'm just saying that that's not the point of this of this movie. The point of this movie isn't serious. And yes, you could take that completely out of this, and it probably wouldn't change too much about the movie. You could take those two scenes out, but it ties into the next scene when Neil gets, or when, sorry, but I keep getting them mixed up now. Vincent gets back to his wife. But what I mean is that yes, it also gives more context to Wayne Grow to give an idea of the character, if he is what he done at the start of the movie. He's a serial killer. He enjoys murdering people. He's not a very nice person. He's a disgusting person. So that gives more credence to what happened at the start of the movie. Now, you had a question for me about that earlier. Is it to do with this? You said about the security guard.
Like, do you think he just likes killing?
Well, I think he likes killing, but I think that serial killing to me is especially people that kill girls, women, young girls. It's a power dynamic. It's to do with having power over people. I don't think look, this is a fictional movie. He's a character. I think he did get a kick out of killing that security guard, but he probably wouldn't get as much of a kick as he would have bashing a young girl's brains in.
Yeah, this is probably definitely what got him off more, I'm sure.
Yeah, and the way he left her as well in the photograph, that is leaving it's like a calling card. You know, with serial killers, they leave calling cards sometimes. Sometimes some serial killers position bodies in particular ways.
Yeah, they're monsters.
Because they're leaving like a calling card to the police. It's like it's a power thing. It's sometimes, and a lot of times it's connected to sex as well.
That's also very true.
Yeah, so the fact that he had sex with a prostitute first and then murdered her and then left her naked in the position he did in like a trash can type thing, that's, you know, classic serial killer behavior. And the fact that we know now that the cop says there's a series of these, I think him going to rob someone, a security guard, and just shooting him in the head, that's not really his style. If you were to ask me about Wayne Grow and his character, this is more of Wayne Grow's style, is, you know what I mean? Beating on women like this and murdering women.
I agree.
Yeah, but the whole fact of the matter is he's a psychopath. That's the bottom line.
Yep, exactly. And we get that illustrated to us here.
Yeah, and the thing is that, as I say, so we go back, it ties more in to do with Neil's life rather than Wayne Grow. We go back to the empty party, and his wife's there, she's disappointed, and she says, I guess the earth shattered. So she had that dig back at him because, it must have been bad, so you'll have to leave me. You know, but she's not happy. It doesn't matter what he had to leave for, she wouldn't be happy. And she asked him what happened, and he says, you don't want to know. And then she says, well, you never told me I'd be excluded. And that's when he said, I told you when we hooked up, baby. I think he says it more like, I told you when we hooked up, baby.
Yeah, the way he talks, the way he delivers his lines is great. Yeah, like, you know, come on, like, I've explained this to you. Like, you're always gonna be second to the job. You know, classic, crime movie trope with a cop.
Yeah, he says that you were gonna have to share with me with all the bad people and all the bad events on this planet. And I love how he says she says, but until you get physical, then you go quiet. And then he says about, I gotta hold on to my angst. Keep it in here. It keeps me sharp. Keeps me on the edge.
I guess so.
Yeah, he says, keeps me sharp on the edge where I need to be. Right? So I love this line that she says. Then, but John, she says, you don't live with me. You live amongst the remains of dead people.
Yeah, well, she's not kind of wrong about that.
That really hits him hard. So it does that one there, you know. So you can tell their marriage is really on the rocks now. And cut the Dawn breeding and his girl Lillian. And you can tell he's distraught about doing this diner job. This manager is a real asshole, and he's not coping too well with this. He's either going to kill this manager and end up back in jail, or he's just going to go off the rails and start doing what he was doing before. But she asked him to handle the job until they find something new. He asks her, what are you hanging with me for, Lynelle? And she says, because I'm proud of you.
Aw. Yeah, I do kind of care about, I feel bad for her really bad in this movie.
Yeah, I like that scene, and I like how he kind of chuckles. He's nearly on the verge of tears, but when he's chuckling, he's nearly on the verge of tears, and he's just like, "Oh, why are you proud of me?" And she's just like, "Let's go home." You know, she's faith in him. She has faith in him.
She does. She really does. Genuine faith.
Yeah, and then again, this is another day where we're basically seeing the end of the day with these characters, John, and the conflict with the people that love them, the personal people in their lives. We've just seen Vincent we've seen Dawn, we're now seeing Edie and Neil. But the thing is that we've also seen Chris and Charlene, but we've also seen Michael and his wife, and they've had a great night. They've been out for dinner. Everybody was getting on well. But then we see Edie and Neil, and that's what I'm saying. Like, this is like the second time they've met.
Yeah, I know.
Late at night, and he asks her to go to New Zealand, and this is the most sensible line that she's ever said: "Is you don't know me, Neil."
Which is true.
Yeah. And he says, "I know enough, but you don't really."
No, you've just met her. It's just like he's chasing what they have now.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it could be the best decision of his life, but it probably would be the best decision of his life. But
It would be for his happiness, I think.
yeah, but in all seriousness, could you imagine, she moves to New Zealand, and then all of a sudden it comes on the news, his picture, we're looking for this guy here, he's murdered these many people, and he's a robber, and he's done this, and he's done that.
And then you just hitch your wagon to that guy.
Yeah. Madness, she might be good for him, but is he good for her? Really, Nick? Is he really?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I don't think so. I think she could do better.
Yeah. I think she could do better too. And this is what I'm saying about, she says, I didn't write it down here, but she says in this scene about, I find it hard, I think she says something on the lines of, I find it hard to meet people, or I find it hard to talk to people. I get the feeling like, I thought of, what do you call her? Adrian and Rocky. She's issues there. She's issues that she can't form friendships or relationships. There's something deeper there.
Yeah, and you're right. There is something, and she does seem like it's hard for her to get comfortable with people.
Yeah, there's definitely an issue, but they don't go any deeper than that. But there's something odd there, that she's a good looking woman. She's very smart. She's a job. You know what I mean? She's good conversation, but for some reason she's no man in her life, no friends. There's something odd there. Yeah, I would like to find out what more there is about her, rather than just a plot device. I would like to think there's more there.
Yeah, I think there is.
Yeah. But very quick scene here. Again, talking about there being more in this movie. This is hinting to me that this girl is depressed and nobody can see it.
Oh, Natalie Portman?
Natalie Portman. So she's sitting by the roadside, and it's really strange. Like, for some reason, Vincent pulls up beside her and he says, "Did you forget your father's picking you up?" So in other words, Dad probably went to pick her up and she wasn't there. So he's either went looking for her, or he just happened to be passing her. And she says, "I felt like being alone."
Yeah.
So that's a sign of depression. And Vincent says, "I'll drop you home." So she gets in the car. I feel like there's more to do with that plot, but we don't see.
No, because like I said, this is kind of like us checking in on a Natalie Portman character. Almost like you said, it's a quick scene. We had to just check in on her character because she plays such a big part in the end.
Yeah, well, it plays a big part in, well, we'll get there. It plays a big part in reconciliation.
Yeah, she's a necessary character, but if we didn't check in on her from the beginning until the end, it's like, oh, we could have completely forgot about her.
Yeah, but yeah, and that's why they probably threw this scene in as well.
Mm-hmm. That's my theory.
As you say, yeah, just to remind us. So remember her?
Yeah, like she's in this movie too.
The girl from Leon, remember her?
Yeah, I mean, she's so good in Leon. 1 year later, this movie came out. Leon was
94. Oh yeah, Leon was before. Yeah, because she was younger. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
1 year.
1 year. No, brilliant actors. But yeah. So now we move on to the platinum heist. So we're doing to see that lawn shot, that high shot of them following the van down in. And I just call them Vincent and Co. Vincent and Co. Have the place staked out. And Neil and Co. They cut the alarm. Neil stands watching outside as Chris drills. Now, I love the inverted image. So they have like the night camera on Neil. He's standing outside, guarding the door, keeping watch. And they have the inverted image of his face on the monitor facing Al Pacino. Did you notice that?
Yeah, which is great. I'm actually, it's funny. I have that on the scene right now in the movie. Like when I was checking it out, like so I can keep track where we are. That's what they're on.
Yep, brilliant, no problem. But see what that's saying?
Well, that he, like the two of them, like how they're just like always connected. Like that's the one guy they don't even realize it because he's not even fully aware of Neil yet.
Yeah. Well, he's the inverted image of him.
Oh, that's a good way to put it. Exactly. They're the same. That's what I'm trying to hit. Like they're the same
right.
kind of person.
He's the inverted image.
Yeah.
He's the inversion of him. He's the same as him, but only he's a bad guy. So it's inverted.
We're the same person, but they don't even realize it yet that they're connected.
And he's just sitting, and He's sitting, he's looking at it, the two faces facing each other, and that's the inverted image of what he is. But that's the way I read it anyway.
No, I think you're reading it correctly.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a noise. There's a cop there that drops his gun against the metal container. Neil hears it and he abandons the robbery.
Mhm.
But of course, there's two divisions involved in this, probably a local unit and then Neil's unit, or sorry, Vincent's unit, and but Vincent tells him to abandon it, let them go because they're not carrying anything. As we mentioned earlier, he wants to get them on the big score. He wants to put them away for years. He doesn't want to put them away for a few months for them to get back out again on a misdemeanor.
Yeah, but the irony of this whole thing is that the bank heist wouldn't have happened and people wouldn't have died.
That's true.
If you would have like just arrested them here for this little petty thing.
Yeah. Well, when you think about it, you're right, and that goes back to what we were talking about at the start about choices and consequence. Yep, and fate, which equals your fate. Yeah,
because we have the power of hindsight of knowing like what's going to happen after this. But if he doesn't know that, he's like, I want to take these guys down. Like, I want to take them down for he's like, this is just breaking and entering. It's nothing.
Well, you look at it like this. Now that you mentioned that, you got me thinking. Cause and effect, as Michael Mann said, I written it down there. And as I said there about decisions, consequence, and fate. He locks them all up now, right? Michael lives. De Niro lives. Well, we know Chris lives anyway. But maybe his wife ends up going off with your man. What do you call him? Marciano, Alan Marciano.
Yeah.
Yep. And who else? The guy Don working in the diner. He would have a different outcome in his life. But I still think he'd end up doing something bad though. Because
I think so too. He was heading.
I think he'd end up killing the diner owner.
He had that coming if he does.
Right, and he'd end up in prison for killing the diner owner. Right, that's what I'm going with. Also think about it. Wayne Grow wouldn't die, and he'd continue to serial kill. So women's slaves have been saved though.
That's a good point. Good way to look at it, because nobody really innocent in this really dies. No innocent people except for that young girl that Wingro kills.
No, there's a few cops that die, isn't there?
Yes, some cops do. I mean, Tom Levine dies.
Ted Levine, he would have survived as well.
Yep, that's a good point also.
Yep. And Thane as well wouldn't have been killed.
Well, if you look at it, I mean, if you look at life, it's balance either way, or maybe the same amount of people would have died. So maybe it's nothing. Maybe I'm looking at it as nothing, like either way, or like people still would have died who were innocent. So you never do know.
Well, that's Michael Mann says that's the whole point of the movie. And you're right. Look, if he had locked him up for 6 months, a lot of that would have changed. But who's to say what would have happened after that? You don't know. So again,
yeah, exactly. Like they're only putting him away for a little bit of time.
Yeah, they could have picked up the chase. But sure. Anyway, the next scene, Neil is wondering where the heat came from the LAPD. But he says to them all, they assume they're on to everything, their phones, their houses, them. And the question is to take the bank or split right now. So he asks Chris, and Chris says to him, Chris to me looks desperate here. He really does. He says to him, the bank is worth the risk. He says, I need it, brother. He says, we should stay and take it down. He asks Michael, and Michael says, I will with you, Neil, whatever. But Neil tells him that this one, you're on your own. So in other words, Michael just follows his lead. Mm-hmm. He says to him, you choose this one yourself, and he says to him, you figure this is the best thing to do. And I love how like Neil is honest with him and tells him basically to split. Don't do it. He says to him, I've got plans. I'm going away after. So for me, the reward is maybe worth the stretch. He says he's got Elaine, takes good care of him. He's got, I've got it down here. He says, you've got money put away, T-bonds, real estate. If I were you, I'd be smart. I would cut loose of this. And I like how as well, did you notice when De Niro says about, I've got plans, I'm going away after. Do you see how like Val Kilmer or Chris kind of looks at him as if he's surprised?
Yeah, because that's not because everything he's always stood for. Now he's kind of changing on it.
Yeah, he's like this is the first time he's hearing this, that this guy is actually he's giving it up. He's it's ending. And you love this line, John.
Oh, I use this line all the time, not just I use it at work. I use it all the time. From Tom Sizemore.
Well, for me, The action is the juice. I'm in.
I love. I'm sure you've listened to them. The rewatchables.
Yeah, the Heat's what started the rewatchables.
Yeah, and they done two. They done like
3.
Heat. Have they done 3? Have they?
They did 2. They did Heat, Reheat, and then they did Heat a third time with Michael Mann.
I think I have listened to all of them, but I love how they always make a big deal about this scene as if Tom Sazemore's really building it up because he's doing a real acting scene with De Niro. The way he looks around, and he goes, "For me, the action is the juice."
I love that. It's so cheesy, but I love it. But I'm literally, I use this at work. Because I work at a butcher shop. Like I'll be slicing like chicken cutlets, and someone will ask me like, you've been doing that all day. I'm like, for me, slicing is the juice.
I could have to start using it more. People probably.
It's such a great line. It's one of my favorites.
I think I prefer. Give me all you got.
Give me all you got.
If you go into the shop bar, could you give us such and such? How many things do you got there? If somebody comes in and asks you, much steaks have you got? Give me all you got.
Give me all you got.
But no, it's really great about this scene too. So they have Val Kilmer, right? They have Tom Sizemore, De Niro acting off each other here. Do it, doing that. Give me your reasons. Are you in? Are you out? The looks, the lanes, everything else. And at the end, they turn the trio and they go, "What about you, man?" And he just goes, "Yeah, sure." And that's it. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
and it's just like it's a launch shot. It's not even like in his face or nothing. It's like ages away, and you just hear Michael laughing, and they're just like, "Let's do it. We got work to do. Let's do it."
Yeah. Like it's their job. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. but they have this Val Kilmer and Tom Sizemore and De Niro. They all have this big kind of like dramatic kind of like, this is the reason I'm doing it. And then they say to Trio, "What about you, Trio?" And he says like, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah, he's just very lighthearted about it. Like, yeah, that's what I do. That's fine.
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
Yeah.
We've done it before.
So next scene, Vincent bursts into Alan Marciano's office. This is the scene here where they burst into his office, and there's a woman there. You hear a woman outside going, "You can't go in there," and you hear Vincent says there, "Watch this."
I know this is a great scene. This is like where overacting gets turned up to 10.
Well, do you know who Alan Marciano is?
The actor, he's got a very recognizable face, but I don't know who exactly he is.
Well, I'm surprised you even recognized his face. It's not his face that you would recognize.
Really?
That is a man called Hank Azaria.
That's who it is. And I do yes, the Simpsons guy, but he's also in the Birdcage. That's where I recognize the face.
He's the voice of Homer Simpson.
Yeah, he's the voice of Apu, Homer Simpson.
He does a lot of them. Yeah, he does Grandpa. He does a load of them. He might even do Skinner, Mr. No, he doesn't do Mr. I'm not sure, but he does a load of them. But that's who he is.
Yeah, I don't know why I always forget that's Hank Azaria, because you're right, you don't really see his face much, but he did the Birdcage a year later with an accent, and I recognize him from that.
Yeah. Well, the reason I'm saying is he wouldn't recognize his face because for me, his claim to fame, his biggest fame has to be, "I'm Homer Simpson."
I mean, not many people in the world can say, only one person in the world can say that. I mean, The Simpsons is still on.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be, but it still is.
I know, I agree. It should have ended 25 years ago, but
that's about right. I think I give a little grace to the movie. I'm like, once the movie came out, that should have been the end. And I think that was 07, 08. I'm like, but either way, or the 17 years since then, or just, I pretend they don't exist.
Well, I think from about 98, 99 was like, because I've started to watch them from the start again. My daughter's watching them from the very start.
In the beginning.
Yes, she's never seen The Simpsons before, so we have started watching them, and we're about, I don't know how many episodes in, 12 or something in, maybe a wee bit more, I'm not sure. But the thing is that you forget that the original episodes, John, were about the family and the town, and it was normal, everyday things, even though it was a cartoon. And it was a comedy that children could watch and adults could watch. But the kind of situations they get into were more kind of down to earth and relatable. I felt as if when it got to the late 90s, maybe they're just run out of ideas. A lot of the situations that the Simpsons and the town and Homer was getting into became too bizarre and too fantastical to the point where it was just not relatable for me anymore.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I get, like I said, I give some grace until the movie, but then like that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't mind the movie. I only watched it once, thought it was all right. But that's who he is. So it's weird to think that Homer Simpson is in Heat. And yeah, this is a great scene. They basically, that's what I'm saying about Vincent Hanna. He basically knows that this guy was a bad boy, and he walks into him and says to him, "You're being extradited to Newark on a New Jersey warrant for smuggling cigarettes from North Carolina 3 years ago. Are you go and work for? Are you go to work for us?" And he asked him about Charlene, and he says, "Who?" And he says, "Who? Are you a fucking owl now?" Which is a great line. And he said, "That's what he says." Oh, here we go. This has to be one of my favorite lines. And then he says,
not.
"Yeah," and he says, "Why did I have to get mixed up with that bitch?" And Al Pacino says to him, "Because she's got a great ass."
And you got your head all the way up it.
I knew you were going to say that part, so I didn't even have to write that down, John.
Oh yeah, it's a classic, classic line. And from what I understand, Hank, this is Al Pacino was ad-libbing, and Hank Azaria did not expect him to say that.
No, I think that's his real reaction. He wasn't going to say it. That's why he's sitting like,
What?
he goes, Jesus.
Can you imagine standing across from Al Pacino and he does that and you don't expect that coming?
It's his face, but it's his eyes, but
They're popping out like
great ass. He does the hand stuff like this. But yeah, it's wild. But then I love it. And then when he follows it up and he goes, "When I think of asses, a woman's ass, something comes out of me." And I think Dracker has a line there as well. He says something to him. I can't even remember what he says. He pipes up with something, like a wee smirk on his face. And he just tells him, "All I want is her husband and his whole fucking crew." He says, "You work with Sergeant Drucker here." So he's got him. So he does. So in the meantime, the FBI surveil Neil, Michael, and Chris on the container facility. I love this, how like, you know, they're setting them up, but it doesn't tell you.
No, this is the juxtaposition of the scene I was talking about earlier when they were able to finally pinpoint the entire crew. This is them being able to pinpoint the LAPD.
Yeah, it's so smart. I love this, and it's like they walk out and they say, "Oh, there's a escape route there, escape route there." See, when I was watching it again, but look, I say take down the way from Robert De Niro, but you know, this is how great actor he is. See, when I watched it again earlier, and I was watching him, like, and maybe it's just me because I know what they're doing. His acting's kind of changed. His acting's kind of like, we go there, we go, all right, he's in the car, got it, go, okay, let's go. It's not as because he is acting. His character's acting, you can tell this character's acting.
Yeah.
That's how good a job he's doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's an actor acting within acting.
Yes. And you can, if you watch it, I think you can tell. You know what I mean? Because
yeah, that's always one of the tricks, to be playing a character who's then acting. It's tough. I always thought that's one of the toughest things because you're already acting, so they're acting on top of acting.
Yeah. So you got to be unauthentic as the character.
No, I agree.
Yeah, and they drive off, and of course the cops come down and they're standing and they're looking, and this is there's an oil refinery here. We're in a container facility. There's an oil refinery here. There's a scrapyard there. I love how Al Pacino says to him, or Vincent says, maybe they're stealing hubcaps, and they can't work out why they were there or what they're looking at. And then that's when he says to them, "You want to know what they're looking at? This crew is good. Us, the LAPD." And I love how that camera, the high camera, comes up and just swings around, and you see Neil with a wee smirk on his face taking the photographs.
Yeah, it's great. I love that. That's a great reveal. Like, you know, they set them up.
Come on, motherfucker!
So good.
It's great. And I love how like Al Pacino's always calling like people motherfuckers throughout the movie. So that night, Nate's car, and they're looking at the bank plans, and Nate gives Neil a portfolio on Vincent Hanna. Like how he says about the bank plans, he's like, did Calcio come through? And he's like, you can build a bank with these things. That's how good they are. I love this breakdown where he's like, he's taking down some heavy crews, blew away Frankie Yonder in Chicago, and he was a fucking maniac. But and he tells him the vice sergeant says Hanna likes Neil, and because he does things sharp. And I like how De Niro access. De Niro's kind of like flattered by it. He gives this wee smirk, this wee, you know, kind of chuckles, and like, yeah, he likes it. He tells him he's been through 3 marriages, he's dedicated, and he tells him that with this much heat, he should pass. But De Niro tells him it's worth the stretch. Now, is this ego for Neil?
I believe he's very confident in himself.
So it's not so. You believe that it's just the fact that he's confident and he thinks he can pull this off, rather than, for example, Nate is telling him, don't do it because the chances are it's not going to work out for you. Now, to me, Nate in this whole thing is the voice of reason, right? Even though he tried to sell the things back to Van Sant and tits up. But what I'm saying is, there's part of me, John, that feels this is ego with Neil, thinking that why should I stop what I'm doing? He can't stop me.
I completely think it's the ego, though, in my opinion. I just think that he's so confident in his abilities that he's never failed before. Why is he going to fail now? Like, he's like, I've gotten obstacles, I've gotten through them, I can do this. But, also it's on the other side, like the risk is kind of the reward for him too. So I'm sure he's balancing that. But you're right. Neil's always the like voice of reason, like being honest. But Neil was just honest with all the other guys about it too.
Yeah. So you're equating the confidence with the ego?
I think so.
Do you think that's the same thing?
For me, I just think it's just for him. It's just too much of like, I've been too good at this. I can do this.
For you, the accent is the juice.
I just really like, this is his profession. This is all he's ever concentrated his life on. He's reading goddamn books about metal because he's going to rob metals. Like, he knows he's very confident in his abilities.
And the whole thing is, we'll get they nearly get away with a bank robbery. I mean, they're seconds away from getting away
Oh
with
my
it.
God, right there.
You know what I
And
mean?
honestly, it's pure luck that they even showed up because they put it together at the last second.
Yeah, it's pure luck. And maybe it's just because I've seen the movie. I think to myself that it's ego more than confidence. I think there's a difference between ego and confidence. Do you know what I mean? And
I get that.
I think this is ego. The fact that he's sitting telling them how good this guy is.
But doesn't ego feed your confidence? If you have a high ego, aren't you more confident?
You can still have I know what you're saying. Yeah, I know what you're saying. But I think there's a difference between, and I know you're agreeing with this too, but it's fine. If you think it's confident, that's totally fine. I don't know. I don't have the answer. I'm just kind of throwing it out there and thinking. But I do think that there's a difference between being confident and having an ego.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
You could still, yeah, I just think there's a difference.
I go back and forth on that because it's tough, because like I do feel like if you have a higher ego, you're going to be more confident because you just truly believe in your abilities because you hype yourself up to that.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, because I didn't think about it back ways. I'm thinking about more forward ways, about confidence. Because there's people that can be confident and not have an ego.
There are people like that.
But can you have an ego and not be confident?
I don't know. I don't know if you can have no ego. It's tough.
Yeah, that's what I mean. When you said that, I thought about it the backward ways. Can you have an ego and not be confident?
Yeah, I don't know if you can go the backwards, but you could definitely go the full. Like, if your ego's big, you're most likely confident. Like, people do fake it. Like, they have a huge ego and they're faking everything. But I think that leads more into confidence. Like, you might not be that confident, but you still fake it till you make it.
Yeah, because there's people that could have an ego, but deep down are not confident.
No,
or is that arrogance?
Or that could be arrogance too. There's a lot of things in play, and he could be a little arrogant too. I think.
Listen, it could be both here. Not saying you're wrong or anything. It could be both. No doubt about it. He's confident in his abilities. He's looking at the plans sitting in front of him. He's got everything he needs. He's been more equipped. It's like when he asked at the start of the scene, did Kelso come through, and he says, I could build a bank with this. So he's thinking, this is an easy score. We're going to get millions out of it. I'm set for life. I'm planning to go to New Zealand with this new girl I've met. So maybe it is just confidence. Maybe he's thinking he made a mistake earlier about Van Sant, which I didn't make a note on. He said earlier about Van Sant, he turned around and he said about because Michael said to him, I want my 750. And he says, you're going to let this guy walk away from us after what he done? And he says to him, I've got more reason to take Van Sant out than the rest of us. He says, but he basically is like, he can wait. Do you know what I mean? Which is a big mistake, right? So it's the same with, if I look at this scene, it's a mistake that he's dismissing Hannah.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah, if he didn't dismiss Van Zandt here, like that would have prevented everything that happens in the heist.
Yeah, and he let that go. He made the phone call and didn't do nothing about it, which again also ties into the Dark Knight. When you think about the Dark Knight at the start after the bank robbery, and when Commissioner Gordon holds up the photo, and then Batman says him again, and he says about I can't remember, it's been a while since I've seen the Dark Knight, but he says something along the lines of, "Do you want him or the whole mob?"
Nah, that's true.
At the start, Batman dismisses the Joker because he wants to go after the mob, not realizing that the bigger threat is the Joker. So I'm not equating Van Sant to the Joker. I'm just thinking here about this scene, him dismissing Hannah. Could be confidence. I think there's a bit of ego there as well. But he also dismissed Van Sant, which was a mistake, which leads up to them not getting away with the bank job.
Yep.
So our next scene is Vincent arrives home. He goes in, and Justine is in the she's getting ready to go out. And he says, "Where are we going?" And she just doesn't answer him. And then he goes, "Where you going?" And she's like, out. And he's like, he walks away, and then she turns around. He's not there. But he goes down to the kitchen for whatever reason. The dishes and all are not done either. It's a bit crap in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not good.
She's not a great wife.
No, exactly. Like, fair enough. He's not. I don't think he's a great husband either. But the thing is that he comes home and the place is like that. It's just kind of like, you know.
Yeah. What have you been doing all day? Yeah.
Yeah, that type of thing. Yeah, and if for some reason he decides to go out and stalk Neil McCauley, he's in a helicopter, and the movie's playing. It's a cover of Joy Division's New Dawn fades, and yeah, I think they eventually scout Neil's car. So Vincent's in a car and he tracks down Neil. That's what I'm saying. I feel as if he's a wee bit of an adrenaline junkie.
Yeah, it's like late at night. You know, he just had to go out and do this and grab. First of all, how are you able just to get in a helicopter? They just gave you the like, hey, right, yeah, it's Vincent Hanna. You can just get up here and fly this helicopter with us.
Yeah, it's Vincent Hanna here. I need helicopters and
I'm
looking for
Neil.
Yeah.
No, guys, like the boss is like, sure, go ahead.
How many helicopters do you want?
I know, exactly. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but he pulls him over, and I love how like when Neil pulls him over, he puts his gun out. But then when he gets out of his cop car, he pulls his gun out.
Again, the same. They don't trust each other.
It's a bit crazy, like, isn't it? But too, he walks up to him and he's like, "How you doing? What do you say I buy you a cup of coffee?"
Because they know who each other are. Like, you know, that's the thing. It's like it's not a surprise who's walking up to his car, and he's not surprised who's walked out of who's in that car. It's like they know each other. They're familiar. They both know that they've done their legwork on each other right now. So it's nothing new. Even though they haven't met, it's not new.
Yeah. So do you think Vincent would have done this if he hadn't have knew that they scouted him?
Do you think? No, I don't think Vincent wouldn't have done this. But now I think there's a mutual respect there.
Yeah.
Like that's why it was such a big deal for them. Like, oh, these guys are good. Like he's like, okay, I'm the leader of my guys, but I want to go talk to the leader of those guys.
Yeah, see what he's like. And Neil says, "Yeah, sure, let's go." And he says, "Follow me."
And this is right where we're gonna end part 1, right?
End of part 1. So that's about an hour and a half into the movie, which is almost halfway through the movie.
About an hour and a half into the movie, almost 3 hours on the pod.
Yeah, which is a good place to stop at. The most pick up when the infamous, or should I say famous?
I think it's famous.
Famous, not infamous. Famous. Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, first time on screen together, having a conversation. I remember it being a big deal back in the day.
It feels big. I'm looking forward. I think the second half has like probably the 2 most iconic scenes in the film. Not that the first half obviously has anything boring, but it's all building up to what we're going to be getting.
Yeah, this is all set up, build up, getting to know characters. And I think we discussed this before we started recording, John. I think we're an hour and a half in. I think the movie's 2 hours, 50 minutes, knock 5 minutes off for the credits. So we've got about an hour and 15 minutes and a lot more of it. So a wee bit more high stakes. We see a lot more people, their downfall and things like that. There's a wee bit more tension, I feel, in the last hour and 15 minutes compared to the first hour and a half, which is just setting the characters up and setting the plot up for what it is.
I completely agree. And I loved the first part of the movie. I'm looking forward to doing part 2. So this is a 2-part series, guys. So make sure you guys watch. If you haven't watched yet, make sure you rewatch because part 2 will be out next week. David, anything you want to wrap up before we get out of here, or just we'll get out of here?
Just give me all you got.
Give me all you got. All right, guys. We'll be seeing you around.